Hey everyone, my name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Oh, spoiler alert!
Mike, it's just the name of the movie.
And you've spoiled it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, featuring two guys getting annihilated and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And thank you to Kenneth MacGyver on Facebook for that synonym suggestion. Kenneth, we're ready. Come back to the podcast. We love you.
I'm coming home to the place where I belong. Whoa, who is that deep chocolatey voice harmonizing with Mike and I?
None other than Max Deirmenjian. Back on the podcast.
Hello.
You may recognize those boyish grunts from the Doctor Strange episode where we got strange.
It was Doctor Strange.
It was Doctor Strange the whole way through. But thanks for coming back, Max.
Yeah, thanks
Glad
for having
to
me.
have you back. Where can we find you?
You can find me
Online,
At
digitally.
my house. And then I'm at work for about 8 hours every day.
Where can our audience stalk you in person? What's your address?
It's Marietta. You can find me on the Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at MaxSchmax, MaxShmax.
Max. Yeah, definitely follow him on Instagram. He's got some pretty sweet pictures you take over there in Brooklyn and your vacations and all the things you do.
I'm a worldly man.
He's a well-traveled man. But this week, we're drinking Han Shot First Double IPA from Evil Genius Beer Company. I almost read that as Han Shot Fist. Let's try this. Obviously, a Star Wars appropriate beer for our Star Wars episode.
I feel like we've goofed on this one like 2 years now.
Yeah.
And we finally got it right. Or Mike got it right. Mike remembered. I did not remember. If I was in charge of this beer, I would have forgot. But let's see what this tastes like. Han Shot First, Double IPA.
Is yours opened already?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a little too excited and opened the beer.
With Amarillo and Chinook.
I believe it's pronounced Amarillo.
Amarilla. Are those types of hops or
It tastes strong. Oh, it's
8%
8%.
ABV?
Interesting. It's pretty good. It's got a bite though. Do she got a bite though?
You got a bite though.
Do she got an overbite though?
Is that your thing, or do you want her to have an overbite?
Do she got an overbite though?
It's a simple question.
I'm not gonna humor you with what my preferences are. Just do she got an overbite though?
She do.
She do.
Yeah, this is not bad. Evil Genius usually has some pretty good beers. They're the ones that do that Purple Monkey dishwasher, I think it's called.
I know we've had at least one of their
all their
beers
beers
before.
are like funny kind of pop culture references, or at least pop culture references. I don't know if they're funny always. They have the the Meatloaf one, and there's a few other ones that they have on there.
I can't wait till they have a Rick and Morty one.
I'd be surprised if they don't already.
Yeah, I know.
There's probably a I'm Pickle Rick beer out already. We're just not smart enough to see it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy.
But it's the Star Wars episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Yearly Star Wars episode now, because there's one every year.
For until we die. There's no, hey, Rian Johnson's gonna do a whole trilogy after this. Like, that makes my fucking, people get excited about that, but I've said before, I was like, that makes my fucking head spin. That's just like, that's so much Star Wars.
Yeah, but I think that at least with Star Wars, it has, or at least has so far only been one a year, unlike Marvel, where it's like 3 or 4 different Marvel movies a year. for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Like at
They
least
feel
it's more
different,
spread
though.
out. Like it still feels more like an event. Like it doesn't feel watered down. I don't feel fatigued by Star Wars yet. I feel fatigued by the announcements of Star Wars stuff, but I'm not fatigued by the actual movies yet.
I feel fatigued by the impending Star Wars movies.
But you have to, like, this trilogy is going to end, and then that'll probably just take the same, once every 2 years for the trilogy stuff, and then the little one-off
All the
anthology ones in
anthology
between.
movies, and that's just like they have like a decade of Star Wars movies planned, basically.
Why not?
I feel like it'd be a really good time to be like 85.
Close to
Yeah,
death.
yeah. You have like 5 years in it, so you can't
Just
get
get
ruined for
a
it.
couple more Star Wars in, and then just croak.
I'll follow this trilogy through, but I'm not doing more than that. But yeah, Mike, want to read me that IMDb description so we can get into the Star Wars discussion?
I sure do. On IMDb, they claim that Rey develops her newly discovered abilities with the guidance of Luke Skywalker, who is unsettled by the strength of her powers. Meanwhile, the Resistance prepares to do battle with the First Order. I had like
I want to do battle.
mini freak out because I forgot. Like I never actually read. I just copied and pasted this, and I was like, "Oh God, I hope there's no spoilers in this IMDb description." Usually there aren't, but I didn't double check that.
Does the Resistance do battle, though?
That's a stretch. That's a stretch.
Yeah. So I'm going to hit you with a little bit of Joe Notes. I feel like we've really beat Star Wars to death over the course of this year. You can check out our Facebook Live episodes. They're on our Facebook. You can search for us, How Many Fingers podcast on Facebook. How many fingers am I holding up for the podcast on Facebook? And then they also go over to our YouTube, where we have no real home. We're just floating through the ether.
But we're getting there because
Yes.
we just recently passed 10,000 views on there. So now we can monetize our videos.
We're back
again.
on the monetization game, and if you do visit our YouTube, please subscribe to us so we can have an identity.
Yes.
On
But thank you to everyone that watched stuff while we were requesting that to get our monetization back. Do appreciate that.
And please continue to do, because we love that you love our beautiful shining faces up on the camera up there. I'm looking at you right there. So yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of Star Wars news this year. I'm sure you've heard of it by now. I don't want to run back through all of it because there's really, I don't know. So Star Wars: The Last Jedi is directed by Rian Johnson. I don't know at what point I started just being like, oh yeah, it's Ryan, because for a very long time I said Rian.
It was last night for me.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's been
I thought it was Rianne for a very long time.
I'm learning right now.
Oh, okay. Because
in real time.
maybe around Looper I finally started figuring it out, or maybe around when it was announced that he would direct this movie is when I started referring to him as Ryan. Or maybe I don't know. But Rian Johnson has also directed Brick, The Brothers Bloom, Looper, and 3 episodes of Breaking Bad. So you could really watch his entire career in like a sitting.
Which Breaking Bad episodes did he do? I feel like we've talked about it before.
The Fly one,
Yes,
the
my favorite.
Ozymandias one, and a third one. He did a lot of the. I mean, he did the Fly one, and then I know he did like 2 of like the Ramping Up episodes. Star Wars: The Last Jedi is the second film in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Star Wars: The Last Jedi stars Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Andy Serkis, Lupita Nyong'o, Domhnall Gleeson, Anthony Daniels, Gwendolyn Christie, Kelly Marie Tran, Laura Dern, and Benicio del Toro. Really, I'd like to just jump into the discussion right from here on out. I couldn't find anything that was too, like, for example, this Star Wars has, I mean, I think this is a fact. Max and I were just talking about this before the mic started recording, but I think this has officially the longest runtime in Star Wars franchise.
Feels like it.
It certainly does. Is it a little too long? there's some B plot stuff going on that backtracks and loses momentum quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I guess we can. This is something that's been much discussed, as we do in, we usually don't have we're not a huge part of like this sort of spoiler kind of culture. We discuss a movie from front to back. If you're listening for the first time, hi, welcome. But we're not shy of spoilers. We'll get it right into it. But I think we're just going to talk a little broadly about this movie. And again, because these trailers really, they didn't really show a lot. We didn't really know what was going to happen in this movie. So I feel like everything's kind of a spoiler just because everyone's been so tight-lipped about this movie.
Or at least you can have different interpretations of what a spoiler are. So if you truly don't want anything spoiled for you, this is not the podcast to listen to.
Right.
If you want a little bit spoiled for you, you can listen for about like half an hour, 45 minutes. And then at a certain point, we are going to do a hard cutoff and we're going to jump into full-on spoilers because that's what the podcast is 3 people, 4 people sometimes getting drunk and discussing movies. And I think to discuss a movie, you've got to jump into the spoilers and, we want it to feel like a discussion between people who have seen the movie. Because we are people who have seen the movie discussing it. So,
and this movie is very long, and I want to talk about it as much as we can. So I don't want to, try to extend before we hit spoilers too long.
So yeah, just keep that in mind as you listen. If you haven't seen yet, and you want nothing spoiled, hop out now. If you want a little bit spoiled, half an hour, 45 minutes. If you've seen it, listen on.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the whole really experience of this movie. I mean, we were just on Facebook Live. I was not huge into the teaser trailer. I really didn't like the teaser trailer. I didn't even really like kind of some of the trailers, and I think maybe some of that plays into because they were so tight-lipped about the plot or whatever. Again, like you said, The Force Awakens is that trailer is kind of a work of art. So anything that comes after that has kind of been more of a lackluster Star Wars trailer.
Yeah, I mean they did their job in terms of it. Definitely got me excited for the movie, but definitely not. I don't think I was as excited as I was about Force Awakens, just because that trailer that just amps you up, man.
I didn't rewatch the trailer for Last Jedi. I remember watching Force Awakens trailer over and over and over again. And every time I saw somebody who I hadn't seen in a while.
Sometimes I would just play it in the car just to hear the audio of it while I was driving sometimes.
Yeah. And it wasn't even shared that much on Facebook. I was recently, I think you said The Force Awakens was shared more, but the new, the Infinity War, the Avengers, the Infinity War or whatever, I never seen a trailer that was shared so much on my Facebook as much as that. And even though I'm not particularly excited about that has some sort of replay value, more replay value than I think this more recent
There's a lot
Star
to
Wars
unpack
trailer.
from that trailer. And I mean, that's been such a long time coming. All we've heard about is Infinity War is coming. And then it finally drops. And
that's kind of their Force Awakens, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there is a part 2 and I don't know. So yeah, so then maybe let's also talk about this premiered. How long before it actually
I think it was
theaters?
Just a week.
Just a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last week premiered.
So we saw a lot of really excited people.
Yeah.
People said this was they really set my expectations high. I can't tell you how many reviews I saw that said this is the best Star Wars movie ever. That's a
bold claim.
Yeah, I don't care if it is the highest.
After seeing a movie once.
Yeah. Or especially, again, we also have to talk about, people see movies at film festivals. I'm sure we'll talk about this during the Disaster Artist, but people see movies at film festivals, and it's just, it's all encapsulated.
There's something exclusive about it. You're seeing something for the first time at a film festival or at an actual premiere event for that movie,
right?
And maybe some of the actors or creators are there, and just emotions are high, and it actually becomes an experience bigger than the film itself.
Right.
To the point where I've learned to like not trust reactions from film festivals or premieres as much as just like actual critics doing their job and going to, just to see a movie.
Right. Yeah. Like the Birth of a Nation.
Yeah. People went crazy. I mean, there's a lot around Birth of a Nation that ended up killing that, but
it still wasn't a good movie. It doesn't matter what happened,
or at least as good as people were making it.
Right. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of really, people saying like this is either I heard a lot of this is the greatest Star Wars movie ever, or it's the best Star Wars since Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
I heard a lot of too. And at first I was like, oh, well, like people say that about like every movie that like has its premiere. Like people were going crazy for like Thor Ragnarok when that came out, and that turned out to be not as great as people were talking about it being.
Right.
But then I just read some like the actual like more thoughtful reviews, that were written on like Twitter threads and stuff like that, and they were like all the things that I was looking for, like people saying like, oh, it's actually a really good film before it's a Star Wars film,
right?
But it's also a good Star Wars film. I wish I should have written it down. There was one tweet that put it really nicely. That was like, if Force Awakens is playing like the greatest hits, then The Last Jedi is like just kind of riffing on like your favorite chords and like playing around with them in ways that you didn't like. It's so beautifully put that I was so excited to see this movie because of that. And then we saw the movie. Let's just get our overall reactions out of the way now. Max, how did you feel about Last Jedi?
I'm getting the feeling that I might be the outcast here. I actually liked the movie. I don't know if I would say it was the best since Empire, although all the prequels sucked.
There's been a large majority of not great.
So I love The Force Awakens a lot, but that was more of nostalgia to me. That's like kind of what the film did. I think Last Jedi was like the first one where it accomplished something new, and it was a brand new plot line, and I think they did that really well. There's a couple points where I was like, really? But I mean, for the most part, watching that, I was really, really into it.
Would you put it above Force Awakens?
I didn't. You know what? I got a feeling from Force Awakens, just from the nostalgia side of it, like that I didn't get with The Last Jedi. So like that's something where I think seeing Force Awakens, I really enjoyed it more. But if I were to go back like a year from now and watch both of them side by side, I think I might like Last Jedi better.
And how'd you feel about Rogue One?
Rogue One was probably my least favorite out of the three. I think what it did, I love that it solved the whole issue of the Death Star. I thought that was a huge thing to do for Star Wars. But as an overall film,
right,
it was almost like too much action in a way. There was no development in it. So I don't know. Rogue One never like really settled with me. I saw it once and I haven't seen it since.
See, I've been trying to figure out, because I've heard so many people in their reviews be like, if you liked Force Awakens, then you'll love this. Or if The Force Awakens disappointed you, but you liked Rogue One, like all the different combinations of if you liked this one, or if you liked both, or if you didn't like either, you'll like this one. I don't think there's any way to really
Jenny
nail that
Nicholson,
down, because all of them have been inaccurate for me.
I mean, we've talked about our relationship with Jenny Nicholson and her whole Star Wars opinion, and I mean, we've talked privately sort of about, like, not even on this podcast, about her and kind of how she's like the person that Star Wars needs, because she's not afraid to completely bash Rogue One.
I remember the conversation we were having where I said that she is someone that can look at Star Wars with like a great deal of affection and love, but also be honest about its flaws and faults, and like she was with Rogue One, where she kind of tore that movie apart, and was a big part of like Joe and I, after we had reviewed it, being like, oh, maybe that was a lot of just like, theater experience and nostalgia high and all that stuff, and it wasn't actually as good of a film as we maybe thought it was. But she can also at the same time be like, well, yeah, I'm also still going to buy all the merch for this movie and be excited and be in love with this universe. And that, I think, is a big deal for me, to come to terms with, like, these movies don't have to be amazing or incredible. You can still love the universe and be a huge fan of it, and also be like, yeah, but this needed a lot of work.
Right. And I think that's... I don't know. I mean, once you start to leave the territory of professional critics and you see like a lot of stuff on Twitter about this movie, I almost wanted to tell people like, you can still be a fan of Star Wars and not like Star Wars, or kind of like, yeah, like I really enjoyed like this installment of Star Wars Adventures, but maybe it wasn't my favorite, you know? Like I think that's okay. And Jenny Nicholson had a very positive review to this one, which kind of surprised me.
She did see it at the premiere. She has addressed that though, where she's like, "Why would I?" It's not, I think people bring that point up as being like, "Oh, well, you know, she has to like it because she's at the premiere." No, but there is certainly a degree of influence because it's an experience. Like just like seeing any movie at a midnight showing. Like, you know, I remember seeing The Dark Knight and like dressing up with my friends to go see that, and it became an experience that was bigger than the movie. That, I mean, Dark Knight is still obviously an awesome, incredible movie, but it definitely pushed that movie up sentimentally, you know, with me.
Right. And it's also, I mean, like, we came back from, like, Don't Think Twice.
Yeah.
Where we meet the entire cast.
Or
and
The Big Sick, I see.
Director. You're right. Yeah,
Question
yeah.
and answer.
It heightens that. And I can't even imagine being, like...
At the world premiere.
Right, yeah. At the world premiere where you're like, yeah, I want to go take a picture with BB-8.
People are actually, like, dressed up. And...
yeah. Or just, like, you know, yeah.
Or like on Twitter, she was saying stuff like, "Oh, like Daisy Ridley was just like 2 feet away from me."
Right? Yeah, yeah. If you're watching the movie with the cast, of course you're going to
feel a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, she had a very positive reaction to it, as did a lot of other people. It's been a lot of. Here's the thing: like if you go on like Rotten Tomatoes, like the critics love this movie. Like I think it's like a 93% from the critics, which is actually. Or no, 93% for critics, 96 for top critics, is like 57 from the audience, which is the lowest audience score for any Star Wars movie.
Which is really interesting because
it kind of makes sense because there's a lot of polarizing stuff that happens in the movie.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't like this movie for reasons that I don't agree with.
Yeah, same.
I mean, we haven't really gotten to our overall opinions. I do like this movie. I do want to make sure that's clear. But I was disappointed compared to my expectations, compared to coming from Force Awakens, which I can make arguments for Force Awakens being the greatest Star Wars ever.
Oh, definitely. Right.
I think I would still probably go with Empire Strikes Back, but I think there's an argument there. And I did like Rogue One. I have a lot of complaints with it, but Rogue One, there's certain magical moments in Rogue One that I can't ignore or throw away because of the other flaws in the movie.
It's definitely soured for me, Rogue One. And I know I had the lowest score on that podcast, and I'd maybe even push it lower, but it's still at least it's still at least middle of the road or like a little positive kind of. So this I think I liked this better than Rogue One. But yeah, let's get into it.
All right.
I feel like people listening are like, fucking talk about the movie, bro. Let's just open up with the first scene because I'm gonna start being straight up and honest. I don't like the first hour of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think it has some really redeeming qualities at the end. And this is the weirdest thing, and I'm going to bring this back around when we get to the end, is that it's so weird to see positive reviews with all the same complaints that you have. Like, you know, it's just kind of like all of a sudden you're like, I feel like I have a different interpretation of like what interpretation of like what a movie is, or like how to critique a movie than you. Like it's so strange like to read positive reviews that are like, yeah, you know, like an entire third of the movie and you know like the first half was like just not good. And it was just kind of like, how is this the best Star Wars movie then? Like
it's just sort of like, how I feel about Rogue One, because there's so many reviews that I've read of Rogue One that I agree with all of their complaints with Rogue One, but it just had moments that like just moved me, where like I remember driving home like putting on the Star Wars soundtrack just because I didn't want that like experience to end. That's how much it touched me. That's how I feel about this movie, is where like, yeah, I agree with a lot of the complaints that people are having, but they're like, but yeah, it was still an amazing movie, and I don't think I had that magical experience with this movie.
Same. I had a lot of very emotional reactions kind of to The Force Awakens.
Oh yeah.
And this movie kind of left me just kind of like, Okay. Yeah. Like it's just kind of like I don't like this opening scene, to get back to that.
Yeah, let's talk specifically about the opening sequence, because I mean, we do the Star Wars crawl. We do the, they always do like the wide on like a planet, and then we zoom in on what's going on that planet or whatever.
Right.
Or I guess on this one, they're above a planet, and the Resistance is fleeing their base, being attacked by the First Order. And then an X-Wing shows up to sort of trick the First Order.
And the First Order is about to like destroy the planet, destroy the fleet, destroy the entire fucking Resistance. And they have it, and an X-Wing pulls up and
Oscar Isaac
intrigues their interest of like, we could finish this whole battle right now, but what do we have here?
He fucking prank calls the First Order.
And that's the thing, is The Force Awakens has Star Wars humor. I don't know where a lot of this humor is. Like, this has some strange humor in it.
It's like modern humor.
It has comedy. It has like
it
comedy
pulls me
humor.
It pulls me out of the universe.
It has this especially is modern humor, where Oscar Isaac's like, "Oh, let me put you on hold," and then BB-8 makes like a dial tone sound, and I was just like, this doesn't come from this universe. This is like too modern to be like,
Like the concept of like being on hold doesn't seem like it fits in the Star Wars universe at all. Much less just the concept of a straight up phone call.
Yeah.
Because usually most instances I can think of when you're communicating with someone in Star Wars, it's a hologram, is what shows up. Like, I can't think of too many. I guess there's a few when people are on planes, I guess, or ships, calling like the home base.
Well, even like voicing in, but nobody's putting anybody on hold.
There's no dial tone.
There's no operator that you're calling.
Or even when at this point you're like, the fucking Resistance is slippery and elusive, but hold on, this one man, like, they're all escaping, we're about to miss our chance. But let's take minutes of this movie to like fucking go into it's not clever is the point I'm trying to reach.
Well, I mean, it's dumb on like both sides. Like, it's dumb that the First Order actually fell for it, but it's equally dumb that the Resistance thought they would fall. Like, that was their plan, was like, let's send our biggest, like, most bravest, craziest fighter and have him just prank call them and like use like his wit. Not his like fucking like crazy skills in the ship. He's gonna use like his wit to get them to not attack the ships long enough for them to leave, and then he's gonna attack all the different whatever on the
to some sort of defense of the movie. I feel like Princess Leia, or Leia to some extent, is like, I hope you know what you're doing, and he's like, trust me, kind of, when he's about to do the prank phone call thing. But it's still like, why is this happening at all?
And so, like, on like that level, it bugs me. And then the level that I think it bugs me even more is that it kind of, the whole concept of this joke, which is kind of like a weak joke to begin with, I don't think it gets a whole lot of laughs, and it starts the movie off on an awkward foot. But then it makes General Hux just less intimidating.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
It kind of ruins his character for us for the rest of the movie for me. Like, because he's shown in this kind of light where he's not powerful, he's being mocked, he's kind of the butt of the joke that's happening, and like, I can't really think of too many instances of that happening in the Star Wars universe elsewhere to great effect, because usually they're showing the villains as being intimidating. Like, we had a lot of people complaining about Force Awakens, where Kylo was showing signs of weakness because he was, crazy and having these like hissy fits and stuff, and people couldn't handle that. But now we have like Hux being like made a fool of, and usually if that was going to happen, it was going to be to build up the other bad guy. Vader would be choking out one of his inferiors, or one of them would be made to look bad in some way, but it would be to build up one of the other bad guys. This is just like Poe kind of like getting the last laugh in on
seems like
the First Order, and I don't really like that at all. I think it kind of weakens Hux for the rest of the movie for me.
It feels like a dialogue out of I was about to say SNL, but it feels like a dialogue out of the Lego Ninjago movie, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like, that's how like
Yeah,
kind of
it's humor that doesn't
yeah.
really fit, and then it lowers the stakes. Like you don't really feel the immediacy of like they're about to destroy the entire like resistance in like one blow, and they're just able to get away because of this. Like I feel like there's a better way they could have set up that distraction.
Right.
You know, it could have been someone flying close and saying they were gonna like give themselves up or something. It didn't have to be like a prank phone call being like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'll hold. Oh, I'll hold." Still holding.
I kind of, I like the shooting out the turrets on the
The actual
exterior.
fight part is pretty cool.
I was kind of just the entire my mind wouldn't stop bugging me about I'm not here to be like the physics of Star Wars, or just like how does a lightsaber work, but like there are so many times in this movie where no other movie really does this in the Star Wars universe. I'm just gonna ignore like the prequels or whatever, just because I can't even wrap my mind. Even they kind of fit within the universe. This movie breaks and bends the universe just to kind of like fit some of these plot points in, and this is such a lesser one. I shouldn't have started out with by premising or with this or whatever, but the kind of like when they drop the bombs out of the ship, kind of like the bomb carriers. I'm kind of like, well, everything else floats in space. Why do these bombs? Why is there gravity all of a sudden? Like, it's just stupid. Like, I was just like, that's just the tip of the iceberg of just some of the, like it doesn't have to be like our world, but you have to follow the rules of your world, man. Like, it's.
I mean, I'm sure there's probably like a long geeky explanation somewhere of like the bombs have electronics on them, and when you fire them, they're just going directly in that direction.
Right, but
they're definitely at a falling speed.
Right. I mean, there's the same physics within the spaceship, which is normal, gravity and air or whatever, as there is outside in space. I don't know. It's just stupid, and it's just what kicks off like a long line of weird things that I don't think belong in like the Star Wars universe. But anyway, yeah, this is just the beginning of the Poe Dameron kind of. He's got to learn a lesson. This whole movie, and I don't think he ever really. I guess he learns the lesson, but he never really like shows remorse about anything. Really, he's never like. Yeah, they all died, but we did something, kind of like, and it's just kind of like, I want to say something spoilerish.
Jot it down. We'll get to it.
Okay.
I was gonna say that's a good point though, because he kind of takes on somewhat of a Han Solo type role.
Right. Yeah.
Like I mean, like he's exactly like Han Solo actually.
Yeah.
And that's
Quit talking, flyboy.
But
Yeah.
Han Solo would never do like, I'm gonna put you on hold, kind of. I don't know, but yeah, go on.
Well, Han Solo, he wasn't funny enough. He was, he was just. But no. So I mean, like, I think it's interesting because like he's definitely filling that gap for Han Solo in a way.
Right.
Like he's supposed to be the sarcastic, witty, loose cannon on the edge, but
Right.
Yeah, I definitely don't know if the jokes delivered the way that they were, and I don't think he really learns his lesson at the end. But then again, I don't know if he's supposed to.
He doesn't, because a lot more people die because of him.
Yeah.
And he's very conveniently like unconscious to not feel the weight of hundreds of people dying with every laser blast. Like, he's just kind of like, oh man, that was a good laugh. Leia, you're here. Like, it's just kind of the end. Like, that's his like arc.
Yeah.
And he's one of the main three characters in The Force Awakens, and it's just kind of, I don't know. So where do we go from here?
It's interesting because I read reviews that talked about how this Star Wars movie like broached the idea of like collateral damage. And I was like, no, it didn't.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
They just let people like
He just fucking sends Finn and the girl off on a fucking suicide mission.
this is somewhat of a spoiler,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's consequential to any degree. But like in this sort of the First Order is chasing the Resistance plot line that sort of follows the whole movie. At one point, there's this point where the First Order is firing on the Resistance ships, and like it'll just be like firing. Pew, there's a ship gone. Pew, there's a ship gone. Pew, there's a ship gone. There's a whole other problem with that in terms of the timing of that, because there's only so many ships, and we'll see like 3 get destroyed in a matter of seconds, and then we'll cut away to a bunch of other stuff, and then 10 minutes later we come back, and it's like, oh, there's still like 5 ships left. Pew, pew, pew. Cut away. Like this all must have happened over the course of like 20 seconds, according to their timeline of time passing. But yeah, there's just not really any like consequence paid to like just tons of people are dying, and we never really are like, oh god, like that was 100 people on that ship. Where like if you look at like the Force Awakens, when they fired that blast to like destroy all the different planets, how many shots of like people just like, oh god, like we're about to die, and then people feeling the weight of like all these planets are about to be like blown up. Like
Right, yeah.
Force Awakens handled that. This one didn't. And then to further compare the two, Force Awakens does that without really any words. It shows us a lot of like images of like how do people react when all these planets are being blown up. In this one, all we have is like 10 different times people keep saying shit like, oh, there's so few Resistance fighters left. Oh, there's even less left because that ship just blew up. They just keep beating us over the head with like, we're dwindling out, we're dwindling out, we're dwindling out.
They do have one scene where I feel like they try to cover their tracks with that, where it's just some like older black man. He's like, yeah, I'm the last guy on this health ship. Like, I'm just gonna stay here and pilot it till I die. Good thing I've sent all the other passengers to the main ship, kind of. And like, I kind of was like, man, like that main ship would be fucking hella crowded. Like by the end, like I kind of wanted to like see that, but yeah. And it was like the whole like A plot was like Jenny Nicholson talks about this, and like I was kind of like I know they do this in Star Wars sometimes, but it felt like almost Star Trek-esque, where it's just kind of like, you know, everyone's like kind of trying to gauge their fuel, and it's just kind of like, we're following them, but we can't shoot them from this distance. And it's kind of like, this is stupid. Like, it's kind of like, well, the New Order might just have more fuel, and they could just go faster and catch up to them.
Well, they do broach it because they talk about they're in a huge destroyer ship, and they're in tiny little transports.
Yeah, and it says like,
so they can go faster.
They're quicker and nimble.
So they are really waiting for the fuel. I didn't have a huge problem with that.
Right? No. Yeah, and I don't even have a problem with that being the premise. But
well, I don't have a problem with that being the logic.
Right.
I do kind of have a problem with that being the main storyline that we're following. I feel like it ungrounded the film literally to have all of it taking place in like ships. Like it had less of a sense of place. Where like other Star Wars have been like, we're on Tatooine, we're on this island, we're on Coruscant, and like it was just a whole, like we were introduced to something new. We didn't get any besides like the one island and then the gambling casino place, which I'm not a huge fan of. Like we didn't really get a whole new like place like we normally do in Star Wars.
Well, that was like, I also found it weird that I felt like there was no real, it's kind of like a Game of Thrones thing too. It's like, well, how did they get from here to there in such a short time as well? Like I felt like they were like, it's
Fast travel.
Yeah. Well, like when they go to the casino scene, you know, I felt like that was a little off as well. The timing didn't match up.
it is. I mean, now that you say that, it's a very less universal Star Wars. It's just kind of like where, like, the ship is about the extension of what we see in the galaxy besides Casino Planet.
I mean, they do have the salt planet in the end, too.
But there's nothing there. And we have Luke's planet. But
it's really 3 places in the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
or
yeah,
different ships, because I guess there's the bad guy's ship too.
But yeah, let's get into spoilers.
Joe's already ready to hop in.
I'm
Yeah,
just-
it's about time.
I
hadn't looked at the time.
I just feel like I'm treading water here, and that's what I didn't want to do with this episode.
So we're gonna straight up do a countdown to give you 10 seconds to get out of here if you haven't seen the movie yet.
Definitely go see this movie. Regardless,
you're gonna see it anyway.
You're gonna see it. Yeah,
See it now.
I don't know if we were gonna convince you either way to see it or not see it. But
all right.
So 10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Luke Skywalker dies! Just in tradition of, I did that with Han Solo too, for our Force Awakens episode. But yeah, so like let's really get into the shit of this. So yeah, even before these ships space out far enough for them to, we can't shoot that far. Oh, okay, whatever. I'll follow that logic. We do have a scene where Kylo is just doing his little flips in his ship with a few other fighters or TIE fighters or whatever. And we get this scene where he aims at Carrie Fisher, or Princess Leia, and he can't follow through with it. I don't know. I don't know if we wanted to talk about that. I don't really have anything else to say about that. It was just kind of a scene, but somebody ends up doing the job for him. One of the other people out there.
TIE fighters. Or, I don't know if they're TIE fighters in this movie. TIE fighter-esque, whatever the next model of TIE fighter is.
And so this is another one. Just this is one of my first big fucking... I wasn't feeling great the night that I went to go see Star Wars. And so I took like a nap for like an hour or two. And I woke up and I was like, I gotta go see Star Wars. So I went and I saw it, and this scene happened, and they blow up basically, I guess, the control room where, Leia's in, and long story short, she gets fucking like sucked out of the ship into space, where why doesn't she just fall straight down through gravity? Because that's what the bombs did. Why wasn't she like, like fucking just fall straight down into space? Because space also has gravity, like a planet does. But she goes out there and she floats, and you're like, oh my god, Carrie Fisher's dead in real life. This is how they're gonna kill her off. And then there's a weird turn where she starts twitching her hand, and then she basically Space Mary Poppins her way back to like an airlock of the ship, and everyone's gathered around the window, and she's like, she's coming back. And like at this point where she's just like, she's like a dead body that's also controlling itself through space.
Well, because she's supposed to be like force sensitive and like using the force, because they have the one shot of her hand twitching, but it's showing like particles moving away from her hand, and she's kind of altering whatever as she pulls her way somehow towards this. It's strange because it's not like it's not like the people who use the force fly around.
Yeah. It's very.
I mean, I guess you would. That's also just how you would move in space, I guess, if you gave yourself inertia. If there's no gravity,
it's maybe the most bizarre scene in the entire Star Wars franchise.
It's also strange because they do it in like this like slow motion, which Star Wars doesn't do a whole lot of. Like Star Wars really tends to shy away from those like slow motion, like whatever shots, and she's just like floating in slow motion, and they try to make it out to be this sort of like beautiful tapestry of like, crap that's flying behind her, and it's just a weird look. I mean, they knew they were making a bold choice. But it didn't really pay off for me.
I was still at this point kind of blinking and pinching myself and being like, okay, I know this is a dream before I'm seeing Star Wars. Like, I should wake up and go see Star Wars. And I was like, oh no, they're doing this in the movie. Like, I was so distraught about that the entire movie. And I also feel like I just like I couldn't believe that there wasn't more outrage about that scene. Like maybe that's just me, where I just think that's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen happen in a Star Wars movie. But I was like, okay, can you guys picture a world where Carrie Fisher didn't die and we watched that scene? You know, it was just kind of, I think people were too distracted by the fact that she was already dead and maybe this is how they killed her off, and then it was just kind of some like,
and then they were happy she was alive
twist.
again.
Yeah. It was like too distracting. This movie also so desperately wants to have twist in it. It's like every fucking like, oh my god, Carrie Fisher died. Nope, psych, she's fucking alive. Oh, Luke, he died. Nope, psych, he's fucking alive. Oh wait, no shit, he's dead again. Or it's kind of like oh, Kylo Ren, he's joined the light side and he's fought Snoke and all of his like his minions, and they've killed everyone. Nope, psych, he's back to the dark side. And like I know some of those can be like a little explained, but it's every fucking scene, every fucking major scene has to be like they have to fucking like M. Night Shyamalan. It's so desperate to want to please, and like maybe like, and that's where I start to think like, maybe you're fooling like a lot of these people, kind of, and this is my interpretation, but like I'm not fucking falling for that fucking like that doesn't make a good movie for me. And there's a ton of great scenes in this movie, but some of that I'm like, fucking fuck you, Star, like fuck you, Rian Johnson.
See, I don't have a problem with any of the actual plot points in this movie. Like I do like a lot of the twists because it's some of the few things that I enjoy in this movie. I think it's just the execution of a lot of this stuff that I have a problem with. Like I think the dialogue is pretty awful throughout the entirety of this movie. Probably like the worst dialogue I've heard in a Star Wars movie, and that's including the prequels. Like those at least stayed true to the universe and like how people talked in the Star Wars universe, whereas this took me out of that so much.
The original sequels are also very minimalistic, in which I think aged well too.
Are we about to start complimenting the prequels?
I will compliment. I'll compliment Phantom Menace till the day I die. I'll put that. I'll put that.
I call pod racing. It's working. It's working.
I wasn't even thinking about the prequel. I meant to say that the original trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The prequels have bad dialogue, but it's not so bad.
But it's still with it. It's not bad because it exits the Star Wars universe.
I'm
Mark Hamill's a bad actor. Like he always has.
I'm gonna follow up and continue hogging the spotlight with just in this trilogy, there's really not a lot of time between The Force Awakens and this movie. I don't have a problem with that. We literally pick up right after, Rey, she's handing the lightsaber. All of a sudden, we have new cinematography, new direction. I'm pretty sure they just reshot that. That's not... I don't think they were shooting on the same day. Like, I'm pretty sure they repositioned that. They have different camera angles. It looks different. I know that much. And I don't have a problem with this. What I do have a problem with is the entire... A lot of people are going to say that the Finn and what's her name? Rose plotline is the weakest in this. And I think it's the most unnecessary, but I honestly think the Rey and Luke stuff is the weakest of this movie. And it starts with good dialogue. Some of Rey's kind of like, it's been with me all my life, but I'm just now noticing it. I don't know what to do with this.
All the ones they use in the trailer.
Right. And there's even like two more little sentiments, and they can be applied to just different things within life and just whatever. But the minute they start like sort of meditating on that rock, and it's kind of the earth and the air and the death and the life, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, I guess.
See,
like,
I don't have a problem.
There's so much.
I agree.
Them,
I think that is the weakest storyline. And it should have been the strongest. That should have been the core of this movie.
It should, yeah.
Because that should have been the most important thing. But they dropped the ball, not only in the dialogue, but in the actual what happens on the island. I think they really fucking dropped the ball.
Oh, definitely.
I don't have a problem with the meditating, because that was one of the few things that fell in line with me for what I thought the whole island thing was going to be. Is Luke is like this hermit now, and he's sort of given into this sort of like Zen-like, almost monk-like type of living, where he's cutting himself off from the Force. He just wants to be one with nature, and like a lot of like Eastern philosophies and stuff like that. And I'm pretty down for that.
He's picked a place to die. Is what he says.
I'm really down for that in the Star Wars universe, because it's also sort of in tune with like what Yoda was doing. He wasn't going there to die, but he wanted to be alone and just live in his fucking little hut and be a weird little dude, and that was great.
Yeah.
And this didn't really follow up on a lot of that. Like, I don't think Mark Hamill does a really good job of playing a sort of monk-like hermit. He kind of just plays old Mark Hamill, not even really like old Luke Skywalker. Like, I think Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi, like Mark Hamill in Return of the Jedi, does a better job of playing like the Zen-like calm of being like a Jedi master. And maybe this is intentional, because one of the plot points is obviously that he's turned himself off from the Force. He's just living alone, and he doesn't think the Jedi should be a thing anymore, and he's sort of turned off from that whole lifestyle. So maybe he has sort of lost a bit of the calm that he found when he really became like a Jedi master at the end of Return of the Jedi. But I'm not really buying the whole Luke is a monk thing from Mark Hamill's performance.
I do feel like I've heard so many people compliment this performance, but it does feel like it feels like Mark Hamill, like cameo performance, kind of, where he's kind of like, "Hey Ray, want to hear the Joker voice?" Like, it's just like kind of the entire time I'm like, this isn't Luke Skywalker. I don't see like any sort of realm where Luke Skywalker ends up, like, there's no besides there's the same person playing him, and this is what he looks like. It's just it was very hard. It
was hard for me to connect the dots between Luke Skywalker and Mark Hamill in this movie,
as opposed to Carrie Fisher with Princess Leia and Harrison Ford and Han Solo.
So do you connect Carrie Fisher with Princess Leia?
Not so much. She's doing a better job.
Because I have more problems with her.
Okay, see,
that's my hot take of this movie. I'm sorry that she died, but she sucks in this movie.
I have less problems with her than I do with Mark Hamill. Is my conclusion.
Because I think you can make an argument for Luke Skywalker in this, because he is dealing with regret. He isn't the person he used to be, because he's turned away from that intentionally. And I think there are moments that he is better or greater in this. And I really especially like him in that scene with Yoda. I think he plays sort of like the weakness and the doubt really well in that. Whereas like I don't think Carrie Fisher's character, Leia, has that excuse. And she's just different from how Leia used to be in the original trilogy, to the point where I don't really feel for her or care for her, because I can't connect it to the nostalgia from the original trilogy. I think like Harrison Ford is the best example, because he just slipped right back into being Han Solo, to the point where like it really fucking hurt when Han Solo dies in that movie, and it's really powerful. Whereas like they could have killed Carrie Fisher or killed Princess Leia in this movie and Luke Skywalker, and both of them I was just kind of like, okay, like less baggage for the next movie.
Yeah. And I mean, we're in spoilers, and so Princess Leia does not die in this movie, even though Carrie Fisher is dead. And I mean,
spoiler alert, Carrie Fisher is dead.
Spoiler, yeah. But I mean, there has been that like famous quote by Mark Hamill that says like, originally, and I mean, they seem to be following through with this. Like, this movie, I don't think was changed it at all because of her death, in my opinion. Because they had a shit ton of time to kill her. She literally dies in this movie and is brought back to life.
They had multiple opportunities to kill her.
She is. I mean, again, I don't know. I don't know how Star Wars humans survive when they go out into just naked space as a human in just skin and clothing, kind of. But if she's able to float around out there like Mary Poppins and then like come through an airlock and just kind of go on like a medical bay for like 24 hours, like less than 17 hours, I guess they say, like, then like, I don't know, whatever. What was I getting to? But anyway, Mark Hamill famously said that the Force Awakens was, Harrison Ford, Han Solo's sort of movie, and then, then they kill him. And then this one was Mark Hamill, like Luke Skywalker's, he has a bigger part in this. And then he dies. And then the next one was supposed to be Carrie Fisher, like Princess Leia's kind of like whole thing. And that sucks because they haven't filmed that yet, and she's dead now. And then I was reading today on Wikipedia, it says, so they don't kill her in this. So I was like, maybe they still have some footage that they're going to use in the next episode 9 or whatever. But then I read this. Prior to her death in December 2016, Carrie Fisher has been expected to appear in episode 9, though Carrie Fisher's family granted the rights to use recent footage of Fisher for Star Wars Episode 9, Fisher will not appear in the film. And Lucasfilm will not digitally generate new footage of her. So I guess we're going to get like an opening crawl of like Princess Leia died. Mm-hmm. And like that's about it for the next film. So I feel like that's...
I'm glad they're not going to digitally redo her like they did with General Tarkin. And
that was weird, but there's also like...
I'm also fine with it because I don't think ending the trilogy on a Princess Leia focused movie is the strongest choice either.
Yeah,
I don't know why they wouldn't have done... I mean, I guess it made more sense for the story that they created for this to be Mark Hamill's movie.
Yeah.
But you would think that the final one should be more focused on Luke Skywalker than Princess Leia. Like, I wasn't crazy about General Leia in Force Awakens, but she was such a small part of that movie that it didn't really detract from that. Like, it was like, okay, like that was a nice cameo. She's here and she helped the plot a little bit, but she was a pretty big part of this movie and had a lot of speaking lines and a lot of screen time for me to be like, oh, you're not really nailing it. Like, I understand she's much older than she is in the original trilogy, so maybe changes have happened to her life, Leia's life, that make her a different person than she was in the original trilogy. But think of like Leia in the original trilogy, where she's like sarcastic and she's like yelling all the time because she's just so fed up with the incompetence of like people around her. And in this, she's just kind of like this wiser, calmer, kinder, compassionate old lady who like has a little bit of sarcasm, but like, she never really like insults anybody like she did in the that was like kind of her thing, was like coming up with like nicknames for people that she insulted them with, or calling someone a scruffy nerf herder.
Right, yeah. And I mean, to some extent that responsibility has to lie on the writers as well. Whereas I don't know. It's just it's hard to say who, with both her and Mark Hamill, like, are they just being given like crappy material for this movie, or are they, really fudging up the lines or whatever that they're being
and I don't envy the position of the screenwriter. I think it's a hard thing to take, the Star Wars universe and try to recapture the magic that those characters had 30 years ago.
Especially because the latter two, Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher are kind of washed up actors, like they haven't done material recently where they can be like, okay, what could they be like now, kind of, like they don't really have a huge, I don't know, where Harrison Ford has done stuff recently and they're like, all right, well, he can play like older Indiana Jones like this, like he could also just, do like an older Han Solo like this, kind of, that's it. That's an easier character
I think he's also an easier character to write for.
Oh, he's an easier actor to write for.
I mean, he's the one that gets the punchlines, and he is has great comedic timing that he can always deliver those. They gave Luke too many punchlines in this movie. Why was Luke a comedic character? I mean, I understand
he's never been funny.
I understand maybe because he's sort of in like the Yoda role now, but it's not fitting for him.
He doesn't. Yeah, I mean, as much as he wants to kind of like do his voice acting work, kind of, it's not coming through for me. It just like, and you can tell they want to like use his voice more than they actually use him. He does a lot of voiceovers. They do have a lot of sort of like obscured face kind of shots with his hood and everything. I don't know. I don't like this fucking Luke and Rey kind of thing. I mean, this poor Rey. I mean, this film doesn't help the whole Mary Sue kind of thing complaint that they have in The Force Awakens, because she doesn't. I want Rey's character to receive some sort of training. She receives some sort of training in this movie, but it's Luke trying to talk her out of the Force. Kind of. He never really.
They go back and forth saying the same thing to each other for a very long portion of this training, quote unquote, sequence. And then he does finally give in and say, I'm going to teach you 3 lessons. And then he does the first lesson, which is so like meaningless and dumb.
Yeah.
The whole like, all right, sit on the rock, meditate. And I understand that's supposed to be a call forward for us to understand when he does that sort of thing later, kind of projecting yourself elsewhere. Breathe and meditation type thing. And that's okay, because that also, I mean, that does fit in with sort of the like Zen-like, monk-like thing that he's going for. But then yes, please. But then they don't even finish that lesson. Like, she's too powerful in that lesson, and he's... Is the beer okay?
We're going to see.
We go and see. She's like too powerful, I guess, in that sequence, and he gets scared of that and cuts the lesson short. So she doesn't even get the first lesson, and then she gets no lessons after that. So there's no actual, like, he doesn't actually impart any knowledge on her. He starts a lesson, and then it doesn't finish, and then doesn't do any of the other lessons. And then that's basically it. Like, a whole bunch of other stuff happens when he's not training her. And then she leaves. So it's like what wasted potential of, like, because you had the people complaining in the first movie about Force Awakens, and I always disagree with these complaints, and I think they righted it a little bit in this movie, because they explain like how mentally distraught Kylo was. Like, Snoke even kind of offers in that excuse of like, you lost to a girl. You did the deed, but you were bested by a girl. By the way, I do love Andy Serkis's performance in this as Snoke, even more in this than in Force Awakens. Like, because I think he's such a physical actor that him not just being like in a chair moving his hand a little bit, he can really give a lot more to the performance. So I actually really liked all the Snoke scenes in this. And I thought that it was CGI, but it was pretty convincing. I thought.
You're right. Yeah.
Much more convincing than the Porgs. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. I was talking about Rey training. Yeah, basically, he never finishes any of the lessons with her. And you have people in Force Awakens saying, oh, like, how did she hold her own against Kylo when she's never been trained how to use a lightsaber? And then we don't have Luke train her how to use a lightsaber in this, and then she fights off like a ton of fucking people in the fight sequence in this. Like, why is that not a complaint that people have about this movie too?
Yeah, nobody's trained this fucking girl who has like this.
Luke's hardly even trained her. Like, I would have understood it if maybe he trained her a lot in like concept, but he only starts the one lesson, and it's not even about concept. It's literally about like an actual practice of like being present. He doesn't like. He's just explaining what the Force is in that lesson, and she's too powerful, and he cuts the lesson short. Like,
which that's like probably the biggest problem I had was the Force in this movie. Like, I think there was very few things I would complain about, but I hate how oversimplified but then overcomplicated the Force was at the same time. So anytime they talked about it, it'd be so. It's like, oh well, no, they explain the Force well, but they're like, oh, you're just being, it's balance and energy, dark, light, but then like all of a sudden they're doing things with the Force that they've never ever done before, and it's like almost just using the Force as like an excuse to make up for things.
To Skype with each other.
Yeah, basically. Like it was just like
Force Skype.
It had all new possibilities.
I'm gonna trademark that.
I mean, those scenes between Kylo and Rey when they're Force Skyping, those are the only scenes I looked forward to in that plot line. Those were the strongest of that. I actually like those. I like those a lot. What I don't like is like down the line they fucking like kind of ruin it, where Kylo convinces Rey to meet him for a hookup. Come to my house. Nobody's home. My parents aren't home.
Kylo Force Skypes her and is like, "You up?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
You want to touch hands?" So anyway, they both end up in Snoke's lair or whatever, and Snoke's like, "Yeah, I actually tricked you into Skyping with each other this whole time." And I'm like, "Did you really?" Like,
well, he doesn't say that. He says he stoked Kylo's doubt.
You're right. Okay.
Because I did hear that in Jenny Nicholson's review, and I disagreed with that because I don't think he says anything about directly making that happen. He literally says I stoked Kylo's doubt or Kylo's feelings or whatever. So he's just influencing Kylo's mind to hoping that he's going to make those decisions to do that thing.
But okay, so Snoke implies that Rey coming here by Kylo's invitation was all part of my plan. Like it was just like, so that I think implies that you guys, like, I don't think Snoke had to be like there's so many seeds to plant for that. Like there's so many like, okay, so Kylo has to come.
Are you complaining that it's a stretch that he could make that happen? Or are you complaining that he did make that happen? Like,
I'm saying it's a stretch that he could make it happen, and maybe that's where a very
I can see that. I thought you were saying like you were complaining that because I think people think that in that scene he's saying like, "Oh, I made you two Skype." That's what he wanted to happen, but he wasn't like, "Now Skype." He says I was stoking the conflict within Kylo.
Right.
I do agree with your point that it's a stretch to be like, how did you know that he was going to do this thing that we haven't even seen in the Star Wars universe before?
It's such like a long con that we never even saw behind the scenes, where it was just kind of like, it was trying to be clever, where it was kind of like, I've been like 2 or 3 chess moves in front of you the entire time, and I knew you were going to bring Rey here, and I was kind of like, what? Like it was kind of like, I don't know. Like, how do you foresee that, but you don't foresee Kylo turning on a lightsaber next to you? It was just kind of like, again, they were implying that Snoke had near power to Luke Skywalker, who was pulling a Jedi mind trick on everybody across the galaxy, to just like a more minimalistic kind of, what if I started putting thoughts in both of these two's minds or whatever? Like, it was just kind of, it was a stretch.
They are pretty weak, both of them, Jedi and I guess he's not Sith, but whatever he is. Users of the Force, they're pretty weak at this point. Like he still hasn't really completed his training yet. They make that known at the end of Force Awakens. So maybe they're easier to influence in that way, and maybe it's not as much of a stretch as we're thinking.
To defeat Snoke when he's so, I don't know. I like Snoke dying in this movie was like, that's weird.
See, I did kind of like that because it and I did think that was where some of like the best filmmaking happens in this, because there is a nice sort of correlation between like everything that Snoke is narrating, like Kylo was about to do to Rey, so we in the audience, but we can also see that the lightsaber is turning towards Snoke, and like now we're left with that choice of like, which is he going to do? And I don't know, I can see Snoke being focused on what Kylo's doing because the filmmakers are showing us the focus on what Kylo's doing in terms of holding the lightsaber to Rey's head. and everything that he's saying is applying to what he could be about to do to Rey, but it's what he's going to do to Snoke. Right. I don't have a huge problem with
it's a great scene. I really liked it, and it's just not until later when you start to think of the consequences of that scene. And I'm about to bring out a very loaded point. There's a lot of different directions we could go with this, but The Force Awakens brings up a lot of questions, and The Last Jedi answers all of them. And it's just kind of like, or it's just kind of like you thought maybe, and I get they want to be like, maybe they want to be unpredictable or whatever, but like maybe you thought like, I don't know, I just feel like arcs are being cut short this entire movie. It's kind of like Kylo, will turn against his superior and, have a redemption arc, kind of. Like, maybe that's what we thought was all going to be in the third movie. Now, Kylo is kind of his own superior, so I just fucking spit. Kylo is his own superior, so, like, what different... Like, there's just less gravity to him, like, if there's going to be a redemption arc, which I think would make this trilogy stand out and a better trilogy... There's no one really to stand up against now. There's just like his superior's dead. He killed them. It's just like it's just kind of like, where are Rey's parents? Oh, they're nobody. Like, it's just that question's over. It's kind of I walked out of this movie being like, I'm not really looking forward to episode 9. There's this like really closed everything out pretty nicely. It kind of like we might look back on this trilogy and be like, wow, fucking episode 8 really spit in the face of the first episode that raises a lot of great questions and really embraces like the Star Wars like fandom as a whole, like being like, what are they talking about all this time? Like all those flashbacks that Rey had, like, I don't know, your parents just sold you for drinking money. You've been here before, Rey, and Rey's like, I don't know.
I think Kylo is either lying or doesn't know the truth when he says that her parents are nothing. I like the fact that he says that. I love that scene.
Okay.
When he says like, oh, your parents are nothing. They were junk traders. Like, I think that's Adam Driver's best performance in this movie is delivering those lines to her.
Mm-hmm.
But I still because it does not make sense that she keeps saying like, I've been here before on the island. If she hadn't, I think it's going to come out somehow that there's something else to it. I still don't think she's going to have like, I don't think Luke's going to be her father. I don't
or
think
Han and Leia.
I don't think she's going to be like, but I think something's going to come out where her parents had something to do with something.
Maybe, or I don't know.
Maybe he just didn't know that, or maybe they were junk traders, but it still had something to do with something. I don't think that's the end of that storyline. There was too much built up in Force Awakens. It's not like JJ was just like, do whatever the fuck you want with this. Like, he still had a hand in how this trilogy is going to play out.
But do you see how like The Force Awakens raises all these questions, and this film just kind of fucking is like, whatever. Like, it treats it so recklessly. Like what they set up like a nice foundation, and this film is just so reckless with all of that. And it's not that this film shouldn't answer questions, and I think people expected this film to answer no questions because it's a trilogy. There's still another movie. I don't know. It's just weird. I was just simultaneously like, what the fuck are they gonna do in the next movie to bounce back from this? And also, I'm not, like I left the Force Awakens like, oh man, like I can't believe I gotta wait 2 years. And I left this movie. I'm just kind of like, if it just ended right here. Like there's no real questions really left.
Yeah, I mean they did leave it in a place of like they're sort of in a tight spot. Like all of the resistance is able to fit in the Millennium Falcon. Mm-hmm. And Kylo is now the leader of the First Order alongside Hux in some capacity.
Right.
So they've set up where we'll be in the third movie, but it wasn't like it was almost like semi a cliffhanger in Empire Strikes Back,
right? And that's what I like about
is like, like Empire Strikes Back, like it ends with Luke losing to Darth Vader,
yes.
which is what I love about Empire Strikes Back, and I was kind of hoping for in this. Like,
everybody wins in this
let
movie.
me actually take a tangent before I forget about this
Go for
point,
it.
because this is one of my biggest complaints about this movie is that when she's doing the whole like training by herself sequence where she's just like, let me just go fight this rock, which like I like the fact because it's showing that like the whole point of her exercise is to do all these moves but stop herself before she gets to it, and you see this sort of indent in the rock where people have maybe been training, and that's the point where they've maybe gone a little too far and it's built into this rock, or maybe it's just natural. Either way,
I think
the
it's
whole point of
natural
the-
because I don't think anybody trains there. That's
the whole
just
point of
it.
the exercise, well, it is an old Jedi temple.
Is that or wouldn't Kylo just know where to go and kill Luke Skywalker then?
Well,
I thought this was like an abandoned place or whatever. I don't know.
I think this was
because they said that the tree was built.
Yeah.
The tree was built like
and that's where all the books
Oh,
were
okay.
kept.
a long
Yeah.
time ago. I
Uh-huh.
think this is just one of the last places that people know about, and
Uh-huh.
they don't really answer how Luke knew about it.
Or just like, how does Kylo
Because
not
Luke,
remember
Luke
where...
was the
I don't
last
think that's
Jedi.
where he trained though.
But didn't he burn down the temple? That's like a big thing.
No,
in
it was
this-
another area. It
Yeah.
wasn't that place.
Oh, okay. It was a different Jedi temple?
Well, is there a temple on the island? I don't know.
I don't know. But he said
I guess he burned down
the Jedi temple. Like, that's like a... That's
Yeah.
I don't know. I assume this was like a getaway spot. I don't know. Yeah. Who knows?
It brings
Anyway,
up a whole other
yeah.
point because Yoda dies in Return of the Jedi, so Luke's the last Jedi. So who tells him where this secret Jedi place is?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't mean that Kylo has to know because it's not like Luke would have told him everything. He didn't.
Right.
The training was incomplete. Kylo turned before that. Anyway, not the point I'm making.
Right, yeah.
They're doing the whole
Go on.
training thing. She's doing the training thing with the rock. The whole exercise is to not hit these points and to, attack, but have the restraint, which is something that I always loved about the Star Wars units, that idea of like, even to allow yourself to be fearful is to give into the dark side. Like Yoda brings that point up a lot in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Like it was bad for Luke to leave in Empire Strikes Back because he was afraid of what was going to happen to his friends. And Yoda was like, you're not ready yet. Like you're being too fearful. Fear leads to hate leads to whatever, that whole thing. I really like that exercise. But then she just pulls out the lightsaber and then she strikes down that thing and it just turns into like a punchline where that rock falls, and like it's a funny punchline. It is one of the actually funny parts of this movie where I felt like the humor fit the Star Wars universe. Like I had no complaints with that besides what it does for the plot in terms of that should have been a really big plot point of she's trying to do this training by herself and she fucks it up. And Luke just kind of watches and walks away. And then we never get like a correction for that. And that should also be symbolic of she's not ready. She doesn't know how to control her emotions and to be in this sort of Zen-like state of being able to control everything, letting things pass, go, and whatever. And she just goes off to fight whoever. And then she fights the Knights of Ren or whatever, or the Praetorian Guard, I guess, not the Knights of Ren, with no problems, and there's no consequences for her not having completed her training. Whereas in Empire Strikes Back, Luke leaves early because his friends are in danger, and Yoda tells him, "No, like your training's not done. You got to stay here."
Right.
He leaves anyway, and it fucks him up. He leaves with less of him. His hand gets fucked up. He is like close to death and is only saved because he's able to like force contact Leia to come back with the Falcon and save him. And then they're left in this tight spot of like, well, now we've got to go save Han. And like just the situation is so dire at the end of Empire Strikes Back because of like Luke going back for that whole thing. But there's no consequences to Leia not finishing her training and being unready, but being like, well, let me go try and face Kylo Ren anyway and bring him back.
Yeah.
Like, and there's not really a whole lot of real consequences for people in this movie. I think that's my biggest complaint.
Well, especially Rey. Rey hasn't had consequences since she's been introduced to this.
Yeah.
Like, just ever, really. She's never had consequences.
She also doesn't even have to fight Kylo again. Like,
Yeah.
there should have been consequences for her believing that Kylo would turn and help her. Like,
Right.
that would have made that twist all the more powerful of, yeah, like he was willing to kill Snoke because he thought that you were talking to him on Force Skype about starting a new, whole idea for everything. And, not the Resistance, not the First Order. We could,
There's also really... I don't know. Maybe I'm in a minority, but and maybe because I love like their Force Skype moments so much, is when he's like, let's start something anew. Especially after this whole movie where we've seen how flawed the fucking Resistance is and how just like loose they are with just like, I don't know, we'll fucking kill these people just to like take out one ship. And Kylo says, like, look, like both sides, they're just, or even what's his fucking Benicio del Toro is kind of like, neither of these sides are...
Yeah, the Resistance bought ships from me, too.
Mm-hmm. He said, like, neither of these sides are perfect. They're both, like, equally as evil, really. And Kylo kind of has, like, the most relatable kind of... Where he's like, come start anew with me. He's like, we'll make something new, like, the two of us. And, like, that was the most emotional part for me. I was like, go with him. You have not had a connection with anybody. Everybody's fucking rejected you. Nobody fucking cares about you, Rey. You have no motivation to do anything. You don't even have motivation really to go see Kylo, which I had a problem with. But this is the biggest connection you've had. Finn, you were just kind of thrown into a ship with, you know? It was just kind of like, this is real. This is fucking like, this is the dialogue that I like where Rey was like, I don't know what to do with this. I've had this since I was born. It's like almost sort of like this weird sexuality kind of like metaphor kind of. And she finally finds somebody that's like her. And it's the only person who understands her. Luke is fucking trying to shove her off the fucking island. And Kylo says, start something new with me. Like, it doesn't have to be like this side and that side. It can be us against the world kind of. And Rey's like, they're my friends. I must go back to them. And like, that was crazy to me. That's the biggest leap in logic.
They also set it up so nicely because
the
entire movie has been about like, who are my parents? Where are my parents? And I really loved the sequence where she jumps down into the pit. I don't know what they call it on the island. The dark.
Oh yeah.
Thing. She jumps down into the pool,
and
then she has that really trippy sequence. I wish it played a bigger part in the rest of the movie because I have never seen like the sort of like time as a flat circle idea presented so well visually than through that kind of like all these different rays saying the same thing. And I love when she fucking starts to notice like, oh, they're doing something, now I have to do it, and then they start doing like it was so perfectly represented visually. I wanted it to be a bigger theme in this movie, and I'm really mad that it wasn't because I was really down for like trippy, like metaphysical, like Star Wars shit, and we never went there. But in that sequence, I really liked the fact that she wasn't shown who her parents were, and she just kept getting angrier about it and wanting to find out about it. And then Kylo has that great scene where he's like, they're nobody, they're junk traders, and they left you for whatever reason. And that's like his greatest performance there. And that should be really like, that's really what she's wanted to know. She went to this island because she felt like she had been there before, and she thought that there were going to be answers there, and she didn't get answers, and Luke couldn't give her answers about anything. And then she goes to Kylo, and Kylo finally tells her, and it kind of tears everything down. And that's when she should have the ability to start new and be like, yeah, I will do this. And that if you ever wanted to like make a bold choice in the Star Wars universe and break away from the idea of The Empire Strikes Back being this and Force Awakens just being A New Hope again, then have Rey make that decision and be the third movie. The redemption arc is Rey coming back. And we don't even need to have Kylo have a redemption arc.
Talk about like me looking forward to a 9th episode is where like that's happening, where it's kind of like, again, she's being fucking rejected by fucking Luke, and it's now I forgot what I was gonna say. It's just I don't know. It was just a big wasted moment, and they do nothing really real original with this. And I thought that was gonna be the real big original thing, and I can't remember what I was gonna say, but it just sucks.
Yeah, it's a polarizing movie, like even for me, because there's scenes in this that I do really enjoy, even if they're not like as. I think I wanted the action to be more magical. Maybe that's my problem. There were emotional moments, like the scene with Yoda. I particularly loved. Once you got over kind of the initial like, oh, Yoda looks weird because he's a puppet again, and the weird blue halo thing is not working.
He's a puppet. It was a weird mesh of just
But I really I think Jenny Nicholson brought this point up, or maybe it was someone else that I was reading. I think it was Jenny brought up this point of like Yoda in like the prequels didn't act like the Yoda that we knew from the original trilogy. And there was an age difference going on, but this felt like the kind of like just funny old hermit wisecracking like Yoda. You know, the fucking guy that's like eating like fish sticks or whatever they are, like out of like the microwave, and he's just kind of like acting or whatever. This felt like him again. But he still had that like wisdom at the end of the day. And I really liked that message of like failure is the greatest teacher. I really liked Luke realizing that and kind of being like, oh, I have to whatever. But I think that would have been so much more powerful if it had been an actual training sequence on the island, and you get like halfway through the training and you kind of have the same thing that Yoda has, where I mean Yoda has it earlier on in Empire Strikes Back, where he's like, I can't train this boy, like he's not ready for this. And then Obi-Wan has to come back and be like, you should train them, blah blah blah. And then he goes back to it. It could have been something like that, where like Luke tried to train Rey and was like, she's not patient enough. All she wants to do is go back and face Kylo and talk about turning him back, and she's not ready for this sort of like Zen-like force presence that I found on this island of calm and balance and all that. She's too unbalanced right now. I see too much power in her. And if you had that and he's not ready, and then Yoda is, you're like, well, maybe you're the one that's fearful and you've got this regret and you need to, teach her through your failures. Failure is the greatest teacher. And then he teaches her, and then she goes back to face Kylo, and she's more prepared because she's actually had training with a lightsaber and physical stuff and using the Force. And then the end of the movie makes so much more sense if you plan it out that way. I don't know why they didn't have any of that training stuff in this.
I suddenly remember what I was going to say is just to harp back on that Rey and Kylo thing, and I promise this is my last point. But fucking Luke, I mean, not only does he just kind of shun Rey, and he does have a last minute kind of, I'll give you 3 lessons, even though they're all fucking bullshit lessons.
He only gives 1, right? Yeah. Does he give more?
He gives like 2.
What is the second one? I was struggling to remember.
I don't know. I can kind of picture it. I don't know. But Luke lies to Rey about what happened with Kylo. And that's such like a huge breach in trust. And Kylo, when they're doing like a Skype session or maybe in person, like he has to be like, no, that's not what happened. He stood over me with a lightsaber and was going to kill me. And of course that's Kylo's like impression. And then she finally has to go back to Luke and be like, you lied to me. And he says, yes, I had a moment of doubt. And I stood over him with like my lightsaber on just because I was overwhelmed by the dark force or whatever. But like, that's still no real excuse, really. And
for what?
I mean, to stand over a child with a lightsaber on and just...
Well, I think that's the gravity of the situation.
Right.
Is that he looked inside his mind, he saw something, he had a momentary feeling of like, I need to, strike this before it gets any worse. Mm-hmm. And then he realizes, oh no, what am I doing? And then I'm looking at it. I did like those sequences.
No, definitely. And I love that it's told 3 different times.
I like the unreliable narrator thing, because that's new to Star Wars, but in a good way.
But I mean, again, Rey is kind of like somebody like Luke doesn't fucking tell me the truth until like I confront him about it, kind of, where I have this deep connection with Kylo where he just tells me the straight up truth, kind of. Mm-hmm. And again, I was reading that maybe there wasn't enough motivation for Rey to be like, oh, I can convert Kylo, let me go there, kind of. I read that for time's sake they cut out a scene of like Rey and Luke having like a really big fallout, like argument, kind of. And Luke's like, fine, fucking go to him. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, fuck you. Kind of like, like pushing her away even more than he has, which is, that's definitely in line with his character, kind of. Again, so it is confusing, like why she's like, what does the fucking Resistance really have in store for me, But
I feel like the one thing we haven't really touched on is the whole Casino Canto Bite storyline. So maybe
that's what I was about to talk about.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Lucy probably deserves the least amount of time.
So
I've heard some really good defenses of it.
I mean, Finn's about to go find Rey but in a sense, he's also deserting. That's realistic. I think.
was
and I liked that, and I wish they addressed that more. Of kind of like, I want to jump ship, like
No,
and
because
they don't. He's just like, oh, I gotta go find Rey, like I don't know. Like which is fine that you can do both, but like I wish there was more shame for I don't know. Go on.
Well, no, I was just gonna say that was like I didn't really like the first hour of this movie, and that was the first point where it started to pick up for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, like now we're kind of getting into. It felt familiar again. It felt like because I didn't feel like Finn felt like Finn from the first movie for the first hour until this point. Like his whole like waking up from sleep and the whole BB-8 joke. Too many BB-8 jokes in this, and they weren't fitting for BB-8.
BB-8 was my favorite character, like in the first movie. Like he was so cute, and everything he hit was so right. Like he hit like some really comedic timing in this movie. I was like, porgs? There were too many porgs. Like it was just kind of like in the trailer. Like I was like, that's cute, and that's like really on point. They're kind of like these nonsensical creatures that have taken the place of Han Solo, where it can kind of be like nonsense Chewie to nonsense Porg, and they kind of like develop this relationship. But there's so many of them. I'm like, there's no standout Porg. They're just all fucking.
It's just the Porgs.
They're all doing the same thing. It's like one race, kind of all being the same character. They're fucking minions, like kind of to some extent. I still like them.
They're well designed. I just wish they hadn't done them CGI, because all of the non-CGI animals in this I loved, and all the CGI animals I hated. Like I really liked the caretakers, and I thought their comedic timing and performances were better because they were actual humans in like suits or puppets, whatever they were. But it was way better than like the CGI Porgs. Like there's just something that's lost in translation when you start CGI animating the Porgs compared to like the other animals in this.
There were like 4 or 5 animals on Luke's island, and I was like, I don't need this many islands. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of vegetation that they live off of, or like what's going on here. Not that that's realistic in Star Wars either, but I was just kind of like, let's keep it focused. I really like the cute Porgs. And I like the humor of the caretakers, kind of.
I didn't mind like the animal he's like milking, just because that was a good like Star Wars punchline. That's always been a Star Wars punchline.
It's like, not blue milk, it's green milk.
Well, no, not even that. Like, just like animal looks at the camera and goes. That's like a Star Wars punchline.
There's something where they're climbing a mountain, they just see another animal, and I was like, are these necessary? Or even the porks, kind of in like small groups on each like. You can. This is such a minor complaint. This doesn't fucking matter. But like, I feel like they have such like that's actually such a small island that they don't have like a whole lot of camera space up there. And so like when they do CGI kind of animals on like every single like little like ledge, it kind of starts to look like Pokemon Go or something. You know, it looks like an augmented reality kind of like, what do we have here? Oh, it's 3 different clusters of porgs. Like it was
while we're talking CGI, I didn't like the fact that half of Chewie's scenes were CGI'd.
Yeah, especially like that one in the trailer.
You can't do that when we've known a character as not being CGI. Like that's why we hated Yoda in the prequels, because we came to know Yoda as a puppet, and then you're like, oh, let's CGI him and he can jump around with a lightsaber. Like
right.
And to do that to Chewie was even more egregious. I thought like you could tell which ones were CGI and which ones weren't. And I hated Chewie when he CGI and loved him when he was not. And then the scenes where it would be Chewie and the Porgs in CGI were even worse. Like, even if the concept of what was going to happen in those scenes, like, I do like the idea of just that one single shots in the trailer of, like, the Porg, like, screaming. That's cute, but it takes me out of it looking at the CGI of it. And then on the CGI note, a lot of the stuff on Canto Bight with a lot of the aliens there, again, half of them are not CGI, and those ones are great. I feel like I'm in Star Wars again. And then half of them are CGI, and I'm like, I feel like I'm in the prequels again, and it's a nightmare. And then you have, before that, well, I guess also on Canto Bight, we have the horses. Again, half of their scenes CGI. Hate those scenes. Yeah. The scene where they're in the stable, and they come up to, like, talk to or interact with everyone.
Yeah.
Beautiful scene. Like, it feels so real, to see like the actual fur on these puppets or whatever they have coming forward. And then my biggest complaint CGI wise, because I hated it in The Force Awakens, why did they bring Maz Kanata back for one stupid cameo in this? It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah,
because Han Solo was her contact in the first one, and he's dead.
Oh, that pains
And such
me
little time
so
has passed
bad.
that it's not like it was like, oh, now she's formed a friendship with Oscar Isaac and Finn, and Rey's not even there. Like,
It looks like they're playing a video game or something. It looks like they're playing the video game from her. Like, I was like, what? It looked like a first-person shooter. Like, it was just so...
I didn't like the humor of the whole,
yeah.
like, oh, it's a union dispute, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't an action character before.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't like anything about her character in Force Awakens to begin with,
No, yeah,
much less the CGI.
yeah.
And like it was a little more obscured in this to have her, because she's like in a hologram or whatever. But I just, how did they call her? Who called her? Who had that relationship with her? Has she, like, I don't remember her being someone that was just like, oh, I'm gonna absolutely always help
Yeah.
the First Order. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting something from Force Awakens.
No, I don't think
It
so.
seemed like she was just a popular bar owner who, I mean, she was definitely good, but she wasn't like, oh yeah, anything you need, I'll hook you up with my code breaker guy.
This is what I'm talking about with like the sum of like bad scenes makes this not as good of a movie as I don't know.
There's
it's
more
just-
things that you have to forgive in this movie, I think, than Force Awakens. Like
is.
Force Awakens, there's some pretty egregious things, like the roly-poly monster
Yeah.
and Maz Kanata and some of the CGI stuff. But that's like kind of like the extent of what I can be like, what could someone really hate about scenes in Force Awakens? You know, there's some decisions that are made that maybe people don't like, and people definitely didn't like that it was really emulating A New Hope in that movie.
Well, yeah, that's my least favorite critique of like The Force Awakens, and me and Max were just talking about this.
It knows it's doing that,
yeah.
so you can't really hold it against it.
Right, like it's just like my least favorite critique is like, oh, it's derivative. Like, yeah, that's the fucking point, dude. It's like we just went through all those like miserable prequels. It got bought by Disney, which before The Force Awakens nobody was a fan of, really. You know, they needed to be like, remember Star Wars?
Yeah.
They needed to bring back the original cast. They needed to make it feel like A New Hope again. Like, they needed A New Hope for fucking Star Wars. It was just like, and it works so brilliantly to the point where I was like, man, like, you know, George, you know, like the original trilogy isn't directed all by the same person. Like, yeah, I don't care. I want J.J. Abrams to do every single episode in this trilogy because, yeah, Rian Johnson has an interesting vision in this, and he's getting his own trilogy. Is he going to direct all those? Is he going to spend a decade of his life, or is that just kind of, is he going to have a J.J. role in that, where he's some sort of producer or something? But like, I'd kind of be okay with him just doing his own trilogy. I don't want him fucking with this one. Which I ultimately felt like by the end of this one, I was like, this is a good movie, but I don't know if I wanted Rian Johnson's direction a lot in this movie.
It made me miss JJ.
Yeah.
It made me excited for episode 9
Yeah.
because it was like, oh, JJ is going to be doing episode 9, so maybe it'll be as good or better than Force Awakens.
Yeah.
By the way, this movie is also derivative, and I'm not holding that against
No,
it at
it's-
all.
yeah,
I
it
think
is.
it's fine. But for people who are like, Force Awakens was derivative and this is like a completely new movie, there's a lot of stuff that this takes from Empire Strikes Back.
Well, it's
and again,
just-
it's fine,
well,
but it does it.
it-
Let's not like overlook it. Like the movie opens on the bad guys about to destroy the rebel base, quote unquote, of the good guys, and transport ships are leaving. And they literally have a scene where they say like, the last transport ship is away. That's directly from Empire Strikes Back. They have like a trippy like scene. I mean, there's also like the main character going to train with like the older Jedi character, the last Jedi that's left. I mean, that's been much talked about already, that Rey going with Luke is like Luke going with Yoda, even though it didn't play out like it did in Empire Strikes Back. The theme is still there. And then she has like her trippy scene in like the hole, much like Luke has his trippy scene in Empire Strikes Back, where he sees like the Vader and he cuts open him and it's his face and all that. And then we also have characters in sort of the middle of the movie getting betrayed and sold to the enemy by a scoundrel.
Yes.
In this movie, it's Benicio del Toro. It was Lando in Empire Strikes Back. And then it starts to borrow from Return of the Jedi towards the end of this movie, where Rey leaves her training early in order to go face an enemy that she says still has good in him, and she believes he can change. Luke does the same thing in Return of the Jedi with his father. And then in Return of the Jedi, the bad guy kills the bigger bad guy in a throne room. Yeah. Same thing that happens in this movie with Kylo and Snoke. So there is a lot that's pulled from the other movies. Again, I have no problems with that at all. That's more just me being like, fuck you to people who are like, The Force Awakens was derivative and pulled everything from A New Hope. This pulled a lot.
Right. And I mean, again, marketing and narratively, like, I didn't mind that happened in The Force Awakens, but I did. I mean, for this trilogy to set itself apart, I wouldn't mind if it broke away from the original Star Wars. Like, with the, I mean, like, it did a lot.
No, I think it did successfully. I think some of my complaints are that it didn't learn enough from Empire Strikes Back. Like, if you want to sort of take things from Empire Strikes Back, there's better things you could have taken from Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Or Return of the Jedi. Anyway, we still have to talk about Canto Bight. That's really kind of the last thing I want to talk about, just because we keep glossing over it.
Okay.
I'm not even totally sure what to say. My thoughts are sort of unformulated on it. I guess really we could talk about Kelly Marie Tran and Rose being one of the new characters to this universe. I kind of liked her at first. Again, I think that was a point that I was trying to get to before, is that I really didn't like the first hour of this movie, and then the first scene where Finn is trying to like desert the whole resistance. Excuse me, was the first scene where I felt like Finn felt like Finn. I felt some of the magic sort of coming back just because it felt familiar. Like, all the performances were working. It was exciting. It was very Finn to sort of be deserting, but for good reasons. Like, it wasn't like he was scared. It's just there was something more important to him, which was Rey and making sure his friend was okay. And then just the interaction between him and Rose at first I thought was really interesting. I liked Rose's character at first being this sort of very like good focused person who, you know, idolized a lot of the people in the resistance and was willing to even like hurt those idols if she thought that they were about to desert when she like zaps Finn or whatever. So I liked that at first. And then I feel like her character is so underutilized after that. Like, they establish her as she's a mechanic, which like that's kind of new. Like, we haven't had that kind of character. We've had like the starfighter pilot, the person who deserted from the First Order, the Jedi hopeful Rey. We haven't had like, you know, someone sort of lower down in the ranks, you know, someone who works in the belly of the ship, literally.
Well, we even have Rey in The Force Awakens kind of having a mechanic-like mind, where she's outsmarting kind of everybody to be like, hand me this, hand me that, because she grew up on Jakku. And
she was scavenging.
Yeah, right. Yeah. She was a scavenger. But, I mean, yes, it was very different to have her be like, you know, I'm not like you heroes. Like, I spend most of my days behind pipes, kind of. I think it's what.
And it was it's a really nice setup. Like, whoever came up with the idea for that character, like, kudos to you. That's a great character.
They don't follow up.
They don't do anything with it. She fixes nothing, and like literally, like everything she does is just like they go to the Canto Bight place, and like the only sort of thing she brings to that is knowing what the horse aliens are. She doesn't like I don't know why they didn't have her like have to fix a ship that they needed to get off the planet, or like something breaks down and she has to fix it. Like, why does it matter that she's a mechanic at all? Like, she could have just as easily been like a security guard
on Salt Planet. She's just fucking flying a ship all of a sudden.
She's flying a ship with the rest of them.
Yeah,
like,
it's just,
even Finn, it was weird for him to be flying a ship, because in Force Awakens, he's like, I need a pilot.
Yeah.
I guess they're not ships. They're more like weird bike things, but they do at one point fly. He does pull up the thing at one point and fly. And I guess maybe in Star Wars, it's a little bit like driving. Like, I guess they do maybe drive things around and fly them.
Right.
But it can't be denied that in Force Awakens, he's like, I need a pilot. I can't fly this thing on my own. And then he's like leading.
Or that hurt.
Well, he was flying pretty clunkily too, wasn't he? Like, that was kind of a big thing while he was doing it.
But I thought that was because he pulled up the leg thing that was they were kind of like skiing on the salt. And he pulls up the light thing, or he gets shot off or something, and then he was.
But still, when that character is introduced and she says all of that, she's like, I spend most of my days like down here in like the basement of the ship of like the fucking Titanic, you know, like kind of like plugging away at these different pipes or whatever. It's just kind of like, oh, like this is gonna be like a refreshing difference, even if they don't, you know, in movies, of course, they would need her kind of to fix something or whatever, but it's just kind of like when a natural disaster happens, you know, like we're like, oh man, like the guy who saved like a bunny from like the California like wildfires or whatever, like we're not looking at the guy who's like, I passed a law for this insurance to make sure that this person receives the amount of money from their damaged home property or whatever. Like, you know, like it's like that's what she's doing. She's so behind the scenes. And I thought there was going to be like, we don't have to look at heroes because they're like these folktale like Finn or whatever. Like I thought, and then all of a sudden she's like, I can drive a ship, or I can ride an animal out of here. Like I can like, it's just kind of like she's a resistance hero. And the people behind the pipes are going to be like, she used to be one of us, and now she's fucking flying a salt ship across the fucking sky, like, you know, like.
And those like it for it to end up there is probably fine. I think. Like, I just think we needed one or two scenes of like, if she's a mechanic, have her fix something, have her help out in that way. But maybe she's still like, well, but I didn't get to fucking fly around with a lightsaber like you did. Yeah. And then she gets her chance in the end, and that's sort of her, not redemption, but like the completion of her arc. She idolized these characters that got to do these things, and then she got to do it in the end, and she realized they were real people too or whatever. But there was no progression. It was just, I'm a mechanic. All right, now fully involved in this rebellion fight, and then I'm just going to do everything that like the hero of the rebellion, Finn, is doing as well.
So, I mean, I've been talking about shit that I don't like a lot, shit that I do like. That's just shit I do like. Max and I were talking about this before we started recording, but, and I do wish this played out slightly differently, but when, Laura Dern flies the ship at light speed into the ship behind them,
Don't like or do like?
No. I do like.
Up yours, alien asshole.
I do like, but I think that should have been less like, me thinks I have an idea. I think she's gonna fly the ship into it. She's probably gonna light speed. I was just like, just fucking do it and let it be a surprise for all of us who haven't caught on yet. She might turn that shit. I have an idea. It was like the fucking Austin Powers scene where he's trying to make a K-turn in the hallway that's too small. I was like, you just should have been like, bing, bang, boom.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think they were cinematically trying to build, because I think they really were dead set on that silence sequence where she does hit the ship and it's all goes silent. And you need a sort of a build-up for that silence to work. Yeah. You can't just have like, oh, okay, now it's silent. Like, you have to have that like loud, silent.
Oh, of course.
I don't know if it's worth it, but
again, not to debate the science of Star Wars, but I was kind of like, it makes a clean break through the ship. I thought it would have been a lot more just, maybe this is in my mind, and just like gruesome and fucking just like, what was that?
Neighbors, or my house is gonna blow up.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a lot more just like gruesome if they like if she teleported the ship like halfway through their ship. So it was like kind of, and like that would really like demote it, or that would really like fucking cause some ruckus within the ship, and that would really fuck shit up if all of a sudden physically there's another ship inside of a ship, because I feel like light speed goes through things. Am I right? Like, we've seen it in not only The Force Awakens, like when there's an alien on the Millennium Falcon, like kind of like on the front of it, and they just do light speed, the alien's just kind of like, whoa, like it kind of like, it's kind of like something on your windshield that flies off, kind of. Where like these physics were more like, light speed fucking tears through everything between you and like from point A to point B. You know, like it was.
It doesn't make a whole.
It like to tear straight through it. I was just kind of like.
Because then, like, when you went into light speed, wouldn't you just be hitting asteroids and comets?
You'd be hitting
and stuff?
everything. You'd feel the fucking. You would fucking tear a hole through the fucking universe, really. Like, yeah, or just like. We got a light speed out of this asteroid field. That's something that's happened in Star Wars before. They weren't like just the entire time. Like, so I wanted to see something like a little more like all of a sudden in the middle of the ship there's another ship, and like obviously that causes like crazy fucking abstract chaos where like a ship is welded into like the middle of another ship. And everything's on fire, and people are half in a ship, half out. I know you can't show that kind of violence in Star Wars, but that's kind of... I wanted some degree of that, instead of kind of... She cut the ship straight in half with light speed. Yeah, I don't know. What were you going to say, Max?
No, I was going to say, I feel like in the older... Like, I want to say it's in New Hope, but they do a lot of, like... taking into account the path that they're going to do when they go through light speed, because they don't want to...
They do say we got to plot a course for light speed.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, like they do have to take into account the fact that if they do hit something, it's dangerous. So like that's actually why I thought it was really cool, because
right,
light speed never have hit anything in Star Wars, and then all of a sudden, just turns it around. It's like even like kind of like the entire time you're thinking it. I feel like early on when they were like, all right, we can only jump one more time.
Right.
So just do it at the fucking ship. Like they'd be so just do it now.
Somebody else brought this up, but it's also weird that Carrie Fisher's dead, so she probably should have died in this movie, or they should have reworked it somehow. I mean, I think they should have planned on her dying in this movie, and maybe Luke dies in the third one rather than the other way around. But someone was making the point of like it's weird that we introduced this Laura Dern character. Who, I mean, not that I want her to stay in the universe, because I don't think she's a strong addition. I don't think she fits with Star Wars. The look of she looks like she should be in like Hunger Games, rather than Star Wars.
I hated her.
And even if you ignore the costuming, she doesn't have a Star Wars face. She's just conventionally attractive.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
She was one of my first crushes in Jurassic Park. Like, I think you need someone that looks a little more alien in Star Wars. That's generally the way they go with casting. But to have her in this movie is sort of like. They don't really explain her relationship to Princess Leia, or if they did, I missed it.
No,
they were just kind of like doing their secret handshake and like, oh, hey, cool, good to see you again. May the Force be with you. But why does like if Leia is this very righteous character, why is she not the one who offers to stay behind? Like she's this fucking old person. Like she's like, oh, like young person. That's okay. You go sacrifice yourself and die. Like
because she's royalty, and they shot a bunch of scenes of her already in like the salt cave. Like it was just kind of like, yeah.
Well, I mean, my point is that in like
they have the emotional Luke scene with her.
Well, I hated that in the original planning of this whole movie. Even before knowing that Carrie Fisher is going to actually croak in real life, I would think that's still the better choice to go. Like, give Princess Leia a noble death. She sacrifices herself for everybody, and then we don't have to have her baggage for the third movie. We can only have Luke in that one. And then it's just weird to have her like knowingly be like, okay, younger person, go sacrifice yourself, like, and I'll just be fine going on. Like, because I also never really got a sense of her really leading.
Also, is there not cruise control in Star Wars? They've all like everybody's spaceship has been going the same speed this entire time.
Yeah, you haven't seen any pilots can you shut up right now? I'm trying to try.
Like somebody needs to die with every ship just to kind of be valiant and not like there's no real like all right, I'll stay here and keep them off our tail by like shooting or something. It's just kind of like I'll take care of the computer that could take care of this, it's just
we still haven't really I don't really have too much to say about Canto Bight. Just it happened. I hated half of the CGI aliens. I didn't totally hate the idea of like a richer part of the universe. That was kind of cool to see, like rich aliens
just straight to like Amalfi Coast.
It was trying to fit a lot of themes and lessons into a movie that was already jam fucking packed with too many themes and lessons, and I was just kind of like, this is like, this is like, even the scene that I like with Benicio del Toro, it's like, this guy sells to the good and the bad, kind of. I was just kind of like, yeah, I like this in theory, but there's too much in this movie. You gotta cut it back, man. Yeah.
I read someone else's review, I can't remember who it was, that was saying that like it makes some like okay points, but it's nothing that's like, mind bending or revolutionary in any way. Like it's not like it's news to be like, oh, like, war is bad and profit is bad. Like it makes some very like basic points that like maybe sort of new to the Star Wars universe, but they're not really like new or fresh or like a fresh take in any way. Like it's just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess weapons have to be bought in Star Wars too. Cool. Like,
oh, they test the weapons out on kids. That sounds realistic. I don't know.
Wait, what?
Like when what's her name?
Rose.
Yeah, Rose is like, yeah, and they used to like test the weapons out on all the kids. I was like,
oh, that line got past me.
Like,
I remember hearing that.
Oh, okay. Like, because they look out at all the kids or whatever, and I was just kind of like, yeah.
I did hear a defense of that whole storyline that was acknowledging how it could seem sort of inconsequential, because it's just kind of like, oh, we're going there to find the code breaker. They get a different guy who helps them break in, but then sells them to the Empire. So it's sort of like it's kind of a dead end storyline. But they were arguing that sort of it is important because it impresses this idea of like there's this theme of like the resistance is sort of dying and people are losing hope in it, to the point that like when they put out the distress signal, nobody comes and answers it, and they're just kind of left there to die. But in that scene, they just kind of do a kind thing for regular people in like releasing those animals and sort of giving hope to the stable boys there. And then that stable boy is shown in the last scene at the end. So obviously it was an important storyline to Rian Johnson to show that like this is sort of, they were also calling to like, they used the word like spark a lot. And like that was kind of like the spark that's like, yeah, there may only be enough people that can fit on the Millennium Falcon right now in the Resistance, but the Resistance is going to be built back up by these people that have seen their good deeds and believe in good after that. That being said, I fucking hate the last shot of this movie.
I was cracking up at some like really obnoxious person who didn't like this movie, but they wrote a tweet and somebody said something about like, I walked out of this movie halfway through. And he's like, did you walk out at the same scene that I did? I walked out when they were showing the kids the decoder ring that showed that they were in the Resistance and reminded the kids to drink Ovaltine or something. I was fucking like dying. It was like, that ring was so corny. And I was like, it's just like some weird like people said like the Porgs were like just like, oh, so they can make dolls or whatever, like those rings are gonna be like, like Resistance.
You would think there would be something more sophisticated in the Star Wars universe, like a hologram that pops out like the Resistance, rather than I don't know,
Ovaltine decoder ring.
I like the concept of it, even especially after hearing that guy's defense of it, but just. This is something that we haven't really talked about, is that I really don't like the cinematography in this movie. Like, I think Force Awakens had some all right and at times great cinematography. There's some scenes that are, it's not necessarily lit. I think a lot of it is created in CGI in those scenes, but just the color concepts in a lot of the scenes in Force Awakens are really beautiful, especially the last lightsaber sequence. Like you've got like the cold blue of like the snow night planet, and you've got like the silhouettes of the trees, and then you've got just the colors of their lightsabers like really being the only light source that's happening in that scene, and it's fucking beautiful. And like there's some scenes where there's a lot of color in this movie, but I don't really get a lot of like the depth and shadow that we get in some of the other movies. Or like think of like Rogue One. Like as much as we can tear some of the parts of that movie apart, I think that's probably the strongest cinematography that Star Wars has had. Or at least the most inventive. Like we have a lot of use of color in Rogue One, but also a lot of contrast, a lot of darks, thrown around in Rogue One. You know, like there's so many times where like they'll find a way to get like a ship sort of like blinking light on characters, or, you know, some sort of light source somewhere that really lights a scene really nicely. And this one, I think, has some of like my least favorite Star Wars lighting.
Even I am still not crazy about the Snoke kind of layer. Like it looked like it
looks really cool in stills.
Yeah.
Because it's just this like red matte behind the characters, and it looks cool for single shots. But in motion, when like you're just looking around and that's all there is this flat red matte behind everyone, it is a little boring.
I don't think it fits Star Wars. It looks like Rian Johnson was watching like Twin Peaks and was like, the Red Room, and like Snoke is like the midget kind of, and like it was just like goofy. It was just like,
it was even
like,
weirder.
yeah.
Like it was cool. I did like the idea of like Rey throwing the whatever at the red and it burning. While it was burning, it was cool. But then when it was gone, it was just like, oh, it's this. Like I didn't understand the area that we were in. Like what was beyond that red. Like became confusing to me, and it kind of pulled you out of the place that you were supposed to be in. But there's a lot of shots that are just like poorly lit. I brought it up because the last shot, I think, is one of the worst lit. Like they just did such a horrible job, in my opinion, of recreating like the moonlight on like that kid's face. Like it just looked fake. It looked like something from the prequels, which are like, I guess I shouldn't say this is the worst shot. The prequels are probably worse shot, but a lot of that was CGI or, you know, digital landscapes that they were creating in the prequels.
It did look
this
like
had a lot of places where
shot,
they didn't really feel like they had an excuse to have bad lighting. Like there's a lot of scenes where they're on the island and like they somehow make it not look like they're outside, even though they are fucking outside in those scenes. Like I understand maybe there's clouds some days and you want to create the effect of like light on Rey's face, but they would just make it look like it was shot in a studio, even though when they were actually outside. Because they did find that actual island. It's an actual island that they shot on for those scenes.
Ireland or whatever,
but they somehow made it look fake in those scenes. And there was just a lot of cinematography that like really pulled me out of this movie. Or at worst, or at best rather, didn't draw me in any way.
Yeah. But you want to get to some fingers?
Yeah, it's probably time for that.
I feel like we've been talking your guys' ears off.
In typical Star Wars fashion, it's already a 2-hour episode.
Oh, boy.
I could talk about it all night, but we...
Oh, same. Yeah, of course.
Any volunteers to go first?
Yeah, I guess I could go first. Again, yeah, I could also talk about this movie all night.
Oh, sorry. Let me read the Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, go for it.
We sort of talked about it before, but on review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, Star Wars: The Last Jedi has an approval rating of 93% based on 256 reviews. A lot of reviews. With an average rating of 8.2 out of 10, the website's critical consensus reads, Star Wars: The Last Jedi honors the saga's rich legacy while adding some surprising twists and delivering all the emotion-rich action fans could hope for.
Okay. Yeah, no, I really feel like I've expressed everything that I needed to express about this film. I was worried about a lot of things in this film, and a lot of those didn't happen. Like, I was really worried that, like, BB-8 was going to fight the black BB-8 for part of this film. I was like really concerned that was going to be a scene. I'm really glad it kind of went the way that it did. I'm still not like wild that, you know, that there's a black BB-8, even though there's like a black R2-D2, and you know, that kind of stuff happens. And I was
I'm more just mad that there was marketing about it when it was such a small part of the movie.
Oh, it's like the Captain Phasma or whatever. Like,
there's so much we didn't get to about this movie.
They did so much press for that character when the first movie came out.
She's gonna play a bigger part in this movie.
Yeah. No, it's just somebody that Finn can beat the shit out of at the end of every movie to kind of like be like, he struggled and then he overcame the big bad, which is some person who really
a different colored stormtrooper.
Yeah, it's a different colored stormtrooper who's like, I don't like Finn. And then Finn's like, oh yeah? like I almost feel bad for that character because that character only exists to get beat the shit out of by Finn at the end of movies. That's.
I kind of hope she's in the third one somehow.
No, she's definitely gonna be. Like, she didn't explicitly die. You know, she's just gonna be like, man, I went through this long, painful, fucking burning stage.
She's gonna have scars in the third one.
And then Finn's gonna be like, hey, I thought you told you to die. Beat the shit out of her until she's dead. Like, because she was like, hey, I'm your superior and like don't fall out of line. And then
authority sucks.
this poor woman who's just getting beat the shit out of. What a goofy character. Who just exists to be a punching bag for Finn. I guarantee you, she'll have no more dialogue, like no more than this, like in the next movie either. Or maybe she'll be like, and that Finn, we should get him too.
Everyone's like, who?
It's just, yeah, that so goofy. It was practically a meme in this movie just because of how stupid it was in The Force Awakens, and just the press surrounding that character. And it's like, you know, it's a woman character, and we're so proud to introduce her just to be beat the shit out of at the end of every movie we put out. She's on every poster too. Yeah, no, I mean, I talked about all the questions that are answered in this movie that are presented in the first movie. And I think that's kind of sloppy storytelling in this movie. There's again, there's a lot there. We obviously didn't talk about it, but there's a lot of scenes that I do like in this movie.
And we're back. Sorry, I disconnected our audio interface when I got up to answer a call. Joe, you were talking about Kylo and Rey and the big baddie.
That big baddie.
That big baddie.
That big baddie.
Big baddie daddy. Big bad booty daddy.
I think the point of what I was trying to make is that there are a lot of great scenes at the end of this film that I liked. That made this an enjoyable movie. I was never bored during this movie, and it's hard for me to not like a Star Wars movie. Again, it's it's another, like, again, it's another adventure of Star Wars characters that I enjoyed, really. It's just, when I bring this into the realm that it's a movie, and this is what we do on this podcast, is we judge how good of a movie it is. Like, I enjoy a lot of really terrible movies, and sometimes that can affect my score, but like, I have to. Star Wars is such a weird franchise. Like, it's just like, these aren't like superhero movies like we were talking about before, where superhero movies are coming out all the time. Even though these are released once a year now, like, they still have this sort of nostalgic seed in the back of our minds where it's hard to hate any of these movies. I mean, maybe because we were kids, it was really hard to hate those prequels. I feel like it wasn't really cool to hate the prequels until the prequels were over, kind of, and we looked back at them in retrospect. And maybe that was because we were kids. I don't know. I mean, like, I did enjoy this movie, but it was highly problematic. Yeah. I don't exactly remember what I was going to say, but I know that I've said a lot of what I wanted to say during this episode. I'm going to give this a 3.5 finger rating. Because, again, I do enjoy this movie, and it's more on the positive, but I don't even remember what I think this is what I gave Rogue One. I'd
have to look.
I think it falls in the same, like, man, this is... I think I get Rogue One a 3 or something, but it was just... Yeah, it is what it is. It's I had fun, but I ultimately when I was promised the best Star Wars movie and I walked into this, and even if I wasn't promised that, I would still be like, as a film this isn't great. Like, but as Star Wars, like, yeah, like I love these characters because of The Force Awakens, and I love seeing them, even if they are doing very pointless shit. But yeah, that's about the gist of what I wanted to get across.
Maxwell?
I know I agree with Joe. I mean, especially like it's hard not to like a Star Wars movie. But then you look at the whole franchise, and when you really think about it, like half of the franchise was ass.
Yeah.
Like, like everyone loves Star Wars, but like half of it like in existence, 3 out of 6 episodes were kind of trashy.
Yeah.
And arguably 4 of them. Like, so it's like, that's why I think I like this one so much, because outside of The Force Awakens kind of being the derivative of A New Hope, this one felt like the first new type of plot, and I thought like that's what really, really kind of set in stone for me. And it was interesting because I was talking to our dear friend Evan. We saw it together, and he loves Rogue One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but he didn't like
grow up on Star Wars.
He didn't grow up on Star Wars. He doesn't even know the whole plot. So it's like, I think that's where I'm a little bit biased, where I'm like, I didn't love Rogue One, and I thought this one felt way more Star Wars to me. But in its own new way, and it escaped the prequels for the most part. So all in all, for like a Star Wars experience, like, I mean, I give it a solid 4.
All right, yeah.
I think that's where I sit with it. It wasn't like, it definitely wasn't like a 5 out of 5, like blow the game away. But I think I enjoyed it as much as I could have, without
definitely.
it being a great movie.
Yeah, I feel like I've shit on this movie a lot in this episode, and I did try to make it clear in the beginning that I did enjoy this movie overall. It is a positive experience as far as the needle falls positively for me on this movie, but I was just very disappointed from what I was expecting. Like, I think Force Awakens raised the bar. Yeah. Like, I came out of this movie feeling like how I was afraid I would feel coming out of Force Awakens. Like, going into Force Awakens, there were so many expectations. First new Star Wars movie in however long, like a decade at that point, and just so much hype around it that I was like, it has to suck. Like, it can't live up to it. And then it was better than I kind of thought it would be with Force Awakens. And then I came out of this with a similar amount of hype and being like, oh, like, this is what it's like to not be completely enchanted by a Star Wars movie the entire time. Like, I just never got that magical feeling from this that I got from, like, I came out of Force Awakens feeling like a 12-year-old kid, feeling like this is the only type of movie I ever want to watch for the rest of my life. And I had a similar feeling with Rogue One, where, like, even if I can complain about things from a filmmaking or a screenwriting standpoint, like, they created some movie magic in Rogue One, I think, between those characters and some of the scenes that happened. And I had a very magical experience with that. And I never had that with this movie, even if there's definitely scenes that I like. Obviously having a positive experience. There's obviously a lot of complaints that I've had as I've listed in this podcast, but it never reached that sort of magical moment for me. And I think a lot of my complaints are different from like negative reviews that I've read of this movie, because I don't really complain a lot about the specifics of some of the plot points, or I guess the big plot points rather. Like, I don't have a complaint about, a lot of the twists happening. I don't have a complaint about, like, I guess I maybe wish Luke would die in the next movie and not this one. But if you're taking this movie in a vacuum, I don't think Luke dying is a bad thing. I did like him, like, projecting himself. I like Yoda coming back. I like Kylo sort of turning to the good in our eyes for like a split second, and then turning back to the bad, and kind of misinterpreting what Rey meant about, joining her. I really like all those plot points, but I think it's the execution in this movie that really kills me, in terms of, I don't think the cinematography is really anything special or magical in that way. I don't think it does a whole lot to enhance our emotions in a lot of ways. Like, it just kind of seems like it's barely capturing what's going on, and it's barely lighting what should be, viewed in the right way. And then I think the dialogue is my biggest complaint with this. I think if they had okay dialogue for a lot of this, I would probably give it like another half finger higher than what I'm going to end up giving it. Like, I haven't even really had a chance to like totally riff on this, but like, and like all the other Star Wars movies, like dialogue is used like just in terms of like, even like throwaway lines are used to like build the universe. Like there's so many lines in like A New Hope that throw out these concepts or terms or places that we don't touch on ever again. And they end up becoming part of Star Wars canon, but it also just, it makes the universe feel big and real. And like, like lines like, like I was going to go to Tashi Station to get a power converter, or like we used to hit like womp rats from like however many, we used to bullseye womp rats. Right. Like just like lines like that. Like we never talk about womp rats again. We don't talk about Tashi Station or power converters ever again in this universe. But those lines make the universe feel real and big. We don't have any of those in this movie. And we have lines to further of the detriment of this movie. We have lines that bring us into our world and not the Star Wars world. Yes. Like we have Luke. Why the fuck does Luke Skywalker say laser sword instead of lightsaber? Like that's something that we would say. Yeah. And like it's funny for us, and like people in my theater definitely laughed, but that like pained me to hear him say that. Like that pulls me out of the universe completely. Yeah. Or when you have Yoda saying page turner. Like we haven't even really seen a book in the Star Wars universe until this movie, and that was enough of a stretch. But then to have Yoda using words like page turner or like fucking Finn saying chrome dome as like an insult to Phasma. Yeah. Like, what is this? The goddamn like Ninja Turtles movie? Like, there's just so much stuff in the dialogue that like, even if the actual plot points of what happens in this movie are great, they executed it so poorly in what people actually say to make those plot points happen and what happens in between those plot points. It really took me out of the experience for this movie. But again, I like the plot points. I like being with these characters again. I was not bored at all watching this movie, even though I thought it was a little bit long. And there was definitely a point where I was like, okay, we've had like 5 false endings now. I hope this 6th one is the actual ending for this movie, just for the sake of the movie not getting any worse. So I'm going to give it a 3. I think I'm a little biased. Again, it's really hard to hate a Star Wars movie. Yeah. And maybe if I was someone that hadn't grown up on Star Wars, I could give it a more honest rating of like a 2.5 or maybe even a 2. But I think even a 3 feels really harsh and hard for me to give to a Star Wars movie. It is. But I have to be honest. I didn't have this magical experience with it. I'm looking forward to seeing it again and hoping that my opinion of it, can only increase from here. That maybe I'll gain a better appreciation of it when I'm not coming to it with like all these expectations put on it. I can come to it just knowing what it is and then try to appreciate what it is more on a second viewing. But based on the first viewing, that's all I can review it on now. I'm going to give it 3 fingers.
I just had like 0 emotional reaction to, like, I cried during the dumbest fucking movies. I talk about that a lot in this podcast. Another thing I completely forgot about is, like, just when I was talking about earlier, when they kind of, like, just things that don't make sense, really, is, like, when Luke goes out there, and whatever, I don't mind, like, the weird Dragon Ball Z scene where they shoot everything they have at him, and he, like, comes out, like, unfazed or whatever. Like, I had a feeling it was some sort of, like, hologram Jedi mind trick, whatever. But it's like when he hands like Leia like a physical object is like, that's when like that was kind of weird. And then also Oscar Isaac's like, well, Luke got in here, there must be some way out. And that's like their clue to start getting out of there. Just cut that line out and follow the anime like ice foxes or the crystal foxes or like the ice evolution of Eevee or whatever the fuck those things are that I don't like, that there's too many creatures in this movie. I was just kind of like, I don't know. And also, like, why couldn't Leia force lift those rocks if she can fucking Mary Poppins through space and Rey had to?
Also, like, that,
there's just so much logic in this fucking movie, man. That's
even on a ideological standpoint, I didn't like that rock sequence because it was just a further reminder of how little training we actually got on the island. Because the only callback they could make to was a line Luke said to why he wouldn't train her is that it's not about like lifting rocks, it's about whatever. And then the lesson that she uses is like the opposite of what Luke was trying to teach her. Like, it was funny. It got like a little bit of a laugh in that like I can see the sort of the threads of like, why would you put that in there? But there's definitely a better way to go about putting that in there. Like, you know, like that line works much better if Luke does actually teach her something. And then it's kind of like, well, yeah, I've also learned stuff, but here's a little tiny like fuck you to my master, because it is about here's an instance where it is about lifting rocks.
I just crack up like all the time in retrospect where Oscar Isaac is like, guys, Luke got in here. There's got to be a way out too. It was just the dumbest fucking logic. Like,
well, I mean, he didn't know that Luke was a hologram.
Yeah, I know, but
and it turns out that Luke didn't get in there that way because they couldn't get out, and he is kind of. But
it's just like the wildest coincidence, kind of, and it's a line that should have been cut out and just been like, hey, the ice foxes are finding a way out of here. We should find a way.
The other thing that I didn't really talk about in this is just like how sort of unsubtle this movie is at times, like. I didn't really like the fact that like Luke and Leia actually had this like really drawn out conversation. Yeah. Because like at other like think about how many times in like the originals, like when Luke even like tries to tell her that she's his sister, she's like, I know. I don't know how, but I know. And that's kind of like as far as that conversation goes. He doesn't have to like spell it out for her. But then he has this long conversation with her here. Or even like Empire Strikes Back, like when like they pick up Luke after like dying, there's not a whole lot of words until the end of that movie. It's a lot of just like, you're here, you're safe, we're going to be around each other. And like there was so much more subtlety in other parts of this franchise. And this movie didn't really have that. And that's why I'm really struggling with a lot of people being like, this is the first like real film of the Star Wars universe, because there's a lot that it doesn't do that I would look to a real film to do, like showing us rather than telling us, and a lot of stuff like that.
That's like, there was a video that I watched that I was laughing at today on Facebook, but it was like the last scene of New Hope, if you like cut out like the music, and it was just somebody doing like the ADR of just like people like coughing, and then like the three of them just like Chewbacca, Luke Skywalker, and Han Solo just like walking up to like the and then just kind of somebody like in the crowd.
That is really funny, but that is very.
But it's the three of them going around and around. Like it's a really in-depth look at kind of all of these like really fantastic performances of knowing look, look of approval. Like, hey, I'm looking at you, kind of. And nobody needs to say anything, really, even though there's this blaring kind of, music playing over it, and Chewbacca, like, roars, like, twice or whatever. It's just, it's this really great scene, and that's, like, a really funny concept.
If it was in this movie, it would be like, I love you. You might be my brother. Yes. I approve of you. I'm proud of you. I also love you. Like, it would just, they would say everything out loud if it was in this movie.
Yeah. And that's how it go.
All that 3.5, 3 and a 4. Obviously, it's going to come out to 3.5 for the podcast. So I thought we were going to have a much. I thought my 3 was going to be a high score compared to yours.
Again, it's too emotional. It's like I can talk shit about it, but it's hard to be like, I hate this, man. Like, I hate to be like, it's hard for me to give this like a negative score. And so that's how I can identify with Twitter followers and friends and critics who were like, it's a good movie, because I'm like, it's problematic, but it's a good movie. Like, it's just, it's hard to turn your back on a beloved franchise that, again, this is like no other franchise. This is an unprecedented kind of thing, and it's hard to give a bad score unless it's Rogue One. Like those one-off movies, I like, unless Han Solo makes some like really, or Solo makes some like really like a fantastic movie, I'm gonna fucking trash that thing. But that's easier because I didn't have.
Yeah, it's not totally connected.
Yeah. There's like so much connective tissue between like so many emotions in Force Awakens. Like I teared up so many times during that movie, and again during this movie I was just kind of stone face and literally questioned whether I was awake or not. Like it was just I should give it a lower score, but let's close this thing out.
We'll have hope that maybe on your second viewing, the 3.5 will hold up.
I mean, I think both previous Star Wars movies, maybe not Force Awakens, but Rogue One, I definitely dwindled.
Soured on the second viewing.
But let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Again, Max, thank you for coming on, and we can find you at
Max Schmax.
Max Schmax.
Max Schmax. On Instagram. On Instagram.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And
Thanks for coming back, bud.
as for us,
I'm always here, Daddy.
oh,
Nice.
you're gonna want to subscribe to YouTube.
You're gonna want to go and see what just happened.
It's gonna blow your mind.
You're gonna see where I'm rubbing with that hand.
Long ass episode, almost as long as the movie. So for all of our stuff, as always, you can find it at howmanyfingerspodcast.com. Let's get out of here real quick. Thanks so much for listening. Please don't destroy our podcast because we didn't give a perfect score to Star Wars. Signing out for How Many Fingers a Podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Joe, and also don't be hesitant to tell us what you thought about Star Wars and why we're wrong or why we're right. And who else joined us this episode?
Max, that's me, right?
Yeah, and that's been How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up to Podcast? I'm sorry, I wanted to get something.
See you next week.